welcome to the Nerdy Up North podcast. It's a nerdy podcast and it's hosted by Northern Nerds. I am one of your hosts, Sam.
And I'm your other host, Paul, and we are joined by, like I say, two lovely new, I was going to say two lovely new, one new lovely guest, and Goodwill.
And a Goodwill.
Sorry, Goodwill. I knew it was coming. As he takes his drink, but yes. So, I just wanted to shout out before we go into everything as well, because we were meant to have another person on tonight. That was the lovely Charlotte. But unfortunately, she has been very unwell. We've got a picture in the top right corner with her favourite person as well, so hopefully she appreciates it, even though she doesn't.
That nose.
But yes,
we love you, Charlotte.
Hope you feel better soon as well, and hope Ruby doesn't kill you when you get home as well. But yes, so this is episode 113. Fucking hell, I'm surprised people are still listening to this shit. I don't swear yet. That's after 15 seconds.
I don't know. I was wondering, but fuck it.
But yes. So yes, this episode we are talking about our favourite franchises. But as with all new guests as well, we always have to do a little intro. So tell us a little bit about yourself there, Jessica.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just the awkward nerd that 90% of the time is in costume. You won't ever see one version of me at the sit like more than once.
That sounds intriguing.
Yeah. Hair changes every time.
So what is your favourite costume? What is your favourite costume though?
Probably the X-Men Rogue from the cartoons. Huge fan. Still terrified if you ever do on screen, because like, will he ever get it right?
True. I know there was rumours that she was supposed to be playing the bad guy in a new Miss Marvel's movie, isn't there? That she's supposed to be playing a terrorist or something. But
original script, yeah, until the contract thing for X-Men came out about being held off till 2025. They can't use them.
Right.
In live action.
Hang on.
Yes.
I'm a huge Captain Marvel fan, and I know that she steals Rogue's powers. So how is then Rogue the bloody terrorist? That makes no sense to me.
I could just flip it and reverse it, do Rogue stealing her powers.
No, because that was such a good story in the cartoons.
Yeah,
Never
you
mind.
never know. And I bet you do get a lot of attention from the teenage boys when you go to the cons dressed as Rogue as well. Because I remember when that X-Men cartoon came out when I was a kid, I had the posters on the wall and everything. So yes, it was one of my fan favourites as well.
Or 40-year-old women who come and stalk you.
I'm showing my age now, because when I'm at cons, past a certain like younger audience, they don't know what it is.
Oh no!
They ask me, I'm like, oh my god, I'm that old that this isn't even relevant anymore.
Boo! I would have slapped them.
That is terrible.
Just hit them. Just beat them down. But yes.
Well, I saw you in Liverpool last year, and you the minute I clocked the Rogue costume, I was like, oh, it's Jessica. You look fantastic.
And I'm sure you've done a Hellraiser one before as well, have you?
Hellraiser was an ordeal. Progressively were falling off during the day, just collecting them all up.
Bless you. But I know, like say, the amount of work you put in, and like say, I know you've been part of the Nerdy Up North community for like say this probably the start when you joined, but like I said, just a bit of history for the Nerdy Up North nerds as well. Jessica was our actually first ever winner of a nerd competition we did, where we had actually a quiz that I think was only about 10 people that joined, so boo to everyone who didn't. But we did like a horror quiz and everything and I got told that the questions were all too hard, but Jessica pretty much got every single one of them right. Because I actually got messages from messages from my friends saying these are too hard. Why are you being so mean to us? But like I said, Jessica didn't have any problems with it.
Yeah, my trivia thing is like it's my like sort of useless talent is knowing just ridiculous trivia that will never be any of use for me. But it's all there.
Certainly. I think one of the questions as well that threw everyone was the name of the family of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you just laughed out your head and had the name straight away, and everyone else was like, nope, no idea.
Oh my god, that's one of my favourite films, and I can't even think of it right now.
You know what? Right now, it's actually escaping me. 'Cause it's been a while since I've had it on.
I can't actually think of it right now.
Goodwill, do you know the answer to this?
Nope.
That's gonna bug me. It's
I believe I could be wrong, but like if my memory's correct, it's a Sawyer family, isn't it?
Oh, I hate this now. There's me going, I know my trivia.
Everyone does, but I think it is the Sawyer family. Without googling it,
Someone
I'm
in the
gonna
chat will
Google it.
probably, yeah.
yeah, chatbots help us now.
Yes.
But yes.
Help
What oracles
us.
of the chat?
So I have.
Go on, sorry.
No, I'm just saying. Looks like a few Martins just came into the chat as well, so he's normally the oracle of useless information as well.
Someone give us it because my fingers just aren't working and not typing properly.
Just had too much fun today. That's the problem.
I've been ill all week, and I've literally just had to sort in one day my whole week out. So it's been eventful. Before we get into this week's episode, I'm gonna have to ask the question because I've watched a lot of shit this week. How are you guys, and what have you been watching?
I'll let Goodwill go
That didn't sound
first.
too cheesy.
No, it didn't sound. It sounded a little bit easier this time.
Martin's just said the Sawyers. You were right.
Cool. My knowledge is
Come on,
still
Goodwill.
there.
What you been watching?
Well, two new things this week. Firstly, The Last of Us, the first episode, which premiered last Monday. That got the what's going to be affectionately known as the Goodwill Walrus of Excellence. So
that's surpassed the seal of approval now. It's
seal of approval is between 1 and 5. Walrus of Excellence is utter perfection.
Right.
I had my doubts, as with all video game adaptations, but I thought, no, I'm not going to shit on it immediately. Where most people have. I thought, give it a chance. It's going to be different than the games. I'd heard some things, why it's different and stuff, and I think the first episode was done terrifically well, brilliantly executed, brilliantly acted, score, photography, everything perfect.
Great.
I love the tiny little changes that they've made.
Cool. And I am going to stop you now. I'm going to be a bit of a meanie. The reason being, after watching the first episode, I am demanding we do an episode on The Last of Us. So I am going to keep all The Last of Us content to it. Similar to what we did with the Sandman, just because I do think this is going to be a bit special. And I watched it. I've watched it a few times this week, I'll be honest.
Really?
It amazed us that much.
Yeah. It is a episode worthy show, so I totally agree. Yes. So anytime you mention it, Goodwill, you're just gonna have content screamed in your face.
The other thing that I've watched was That 90s Show.
We will not be doing an episode on this.
We will not be. But I've heard mixed opinions and mixed reviews.
Now, as you guys already know, wasn't a fan of the first episode. I thought there were problems. However, I stuck with it. And between episode 3 and 4, 4 to 5, there was a shift in quality when it came to the writing and the acting. And I think that's when they sort of got their act together. And overall, I enjoyed it. It was a nice little nod. Again, some issues, but if they do get it, if they get a season 2, Netflix. I think that I've got high hopes for it. It did get 3 out of 5 seal claps, and it did get the Goodwill seal.
Are you actually trying to make this a thing now?
It will be a thing.
All right. Fantastic.
Is this because the Twitch fame that you're becoming now, that you're becoming a movie reviewer?
Naff off with this, man.
No, not at all. Goodwill.
It is, like I said, it's worth sticking with. I think it's not as the first series of That 70s Show was brilliant, and I think this had a lot of competition with that. I stuck with it. I enjoyed it. If there's a season 2, brilliant. If there isn't, not really a big loss. But with Netflix, even if it's got, even if it's most popular, there's always that risk. I mean, when Wednesday aired, people were like, "This is brilliant. It'll be cancelled by Netflix." And there's always going to be that paranoia.
There's been rumours. There's been rumours that they weren't going to pick it up for a second season.
But
exactly.
That's the thing, though, because
Wednesday. It's not a fan in the slightest.
What?
Oh.
And someone who didn't like it?
You know, it was Morticia. Really upset me. They made her so harsh and such an awful mother. And it was like, that was never the narrative. Like, they were the most perfect, supportive parents. To do this all of a sudden was kind of like, you can't go and tarnish Morticia. Like, I can't accept that.
No, that's why I like it. Like, see, it was interesting because with all the different views and stuff, but I think with Netflix, like, a good point that Goodwill made was with Netflix now, I think they even come out with a statement that they don't try and make a season last more than three seasons, because that's when budgets go up and they've got to increase the contracts. So I'd say that's why most things don't last long there. But it's interesting. I know, like say, with Wednesday was always going to be a Marmite show. I think I've had fans that love it and fans that hate it. I've never had many people that come on and say it was okay. It's either the the cross, but I think with a lot of different things with like Wednesday, I loved aspects of it and I enjoyed it, and like say as it went on I loved more and more of it. But I can certainly see why someone would be upset with the way Morticia was. To me, it didn't upset me as much, but that might be because like say I was never really that strong. My affiliate with Morticia was that I fancied her. That was probably my strong point, being honest with you. But like say, I was more happy with the casting of Gomez and how they got Gomez. I thought was spot on. Yeah. So that was like say why I enjoyed it. But I think when we done the episode review, I had issues with Fester as well. I never thought the Fester quite worked, but it'd be interesting how they're going to do season 2, because the surprise factor's gone now. So now it's got to actually be entertaining from the start and try and bring something new, because that's what made it work. But yeah,
I think there was never a doubt that there was going to be a season 2 Wednesday. I think the question with Netflix was the company that made Wednesday was bought by Amazon, MGM. So there was always that, well, if Netflix cancels it, it will just go to Amazon Prime. And I think with Netflix, it was sort of like, well, shit, we could lose people here.
Yeah.
If we and I was talking to someone today about Stranger Things. And I said, after the final season airs, Netflix is going to have a problem because they don't have a killer IP.
But there's supposed to be spin-offs that they're going to be doing with Stranger Things. It's going to be similar to what they did with, again, spoiler for Walking Dead fans, at the end of The Walking Dead, when they just went, here's the ending, but we're going to spin off to all these different shows. I've got a feeling the Stranger Things are going to do the same thing.
The Walking Dead spin-offs are not going according to plan. Andrew Lincoln's pulled out. His contract's done. He's not doing these spin-offs. That means Denai Guerrera is pulling out. So that's gone. That's scrapped. The actress who's playing Carol, she's pulled out of the Daryl and Carol one, so it's just Daryl. So the whole franchise lies on his shoulders.
But he's just signed up for the John Wick TV show. What's it called? It's about the hotel and stuff like that.
I personally can't see Walking Dead going any further, but I did hear that about Norman Reedus. I do want nice things to happen for Norman Reedus. What have you been watching, Jessica?
So I just started a show called Yellowstone.
Ah, yes, I've heard about it.
Is that the one with Kevin Costner?
It is. It's really, really good. It's very close to Sons of Anarchy. It's got a very similar filming style. The dynamic is very similar. Not quite as high-paced as what Sons of Anarchy was. But it is actually one of the guys from Sons of Anarchy that's wrote this as well. So he's taken a lot of notes from Kurt Sutter and brought it into his own show.
Yeah. Right.
It's been good. It's been really interesting. Other than that, it's been White Lotus has absolutely pulled me in.
I've heard so many good things.
It's so surreal.
It's Jennifer Coolidge, isn't it?
She's fantastic.
She's minting everything, let's be honest.
I think
the woman deserves the world. She really does.
But I think with Yellowstone as well, because it's been out a while, but they've got it set in modern day, but they've got like 19, like 16.
They've
like
got
proper,
a spin-off prequel, haven't they?
where it's like proper
1923
cowboys
or
and stuff.
something.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be violent as hell, and Kevin Costner playing a badass for once. So that's like I say, I've got quite a bit of interest in watching that.
Oh, it's definitely worth a watch. It's a great dynamic. The cast is fantastic. And yeah, it's a pretty solid story because it is to do with the ownership of land and taking a lot of it from the Native Americans and the impact that's had and the dynamic between the two trying to get that land back.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stories.
Cool.
I'm really surprised Carolyn hasn't been badgering us to watch it because the woman is obsessed with Kevin Costner. Absolutely.
Why wouldn't you be?
Obsessed.
The man's a saint. He should be doing more work.
I was texting her while I was watching Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and she was like, "Can you stop?" Like,
to be fair though,
stop taking the piss out of me, man.
He's the first, like one of the first people I've watched as a serial killer that actually start cheering on and wanting him to get the end, because that is his version of, was it Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, she's been badgering us to watch that as well.
Absolutely brilliant. Seeing Kevin Costner's Sinister was just amazing. It was like Robin Williams' turn in 1 Hour Photo and Insomnia.
That was sinister as fuck. That.
Can I just shout out one that I've literally just started called Kevin Can Go Fuck Himself.
Okay.
This is it's on AMC. I think it's final
season.
Oh,
are you being genuine?
Yes.
I was going, who's Kevin and where did he touch you?
What's Kevin for you?
Yeah, this is my shout out to someone called Kevin. Yeah. It's on AMC. It is so goddamn interesting because it's a show that initially it looks like a sitcom, and it's done as a multi-camera sitcom with a live studio audience, quote unquote, with the stereotypical shenanigans. When it focuses on the husband, when it focuses on the wife, it turns into a dark and gritty AMC drama within the same scene, and it's so hard to explain. But if you can just watch a trailer for it or watch a clip for it, you will realize there's been nothing else like this on television. And it's essentially like, say, one scene where they're in the living room, and it's like, oh, the husband's been a doofus, blah, 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 and then he leaves, and then the wife's there, and the scene changes. It's the exact same set, the exact same decoration, everything like that, but the lighting changes, and it goes from like this bright and overly saturated sitcom to a dark and gritty AMC drama about the mental, the issues that the wife is saying, and how she wants to fucking kill her husband, and how she fucking hates him and stuff like that. And then when he comes back in, it's all bright and overly saturated with live audiences again. It's insane.
That sounds interesting.
They don't explain any of it. They don't explain why it's like that. It just fucking does it, and it's brilliant.
So we should be watching it when we're in a happy place, not in a bad place.
Yes.
By the sounds of it. Right. Okay. That sounds entertaining.
It does sound intriguing. Come on then, Paul, what you been watching?
I've been a bit boring, to be honest. I've been catching up again, watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia for the third or fourth run through. Just in preparation for when we do the episode coming up in a few months' time.
I love Always Sunny.
It's the best.
Guilty pleasures.
Last year, it really got me and my husband through a very dark place, and we are now completely obsessed with the podcast.
It's just how I watch it in awe, just how they can get away with all the stuff that they do and how they say stuff. But like I say, it's absolutely brilliant comedy, and the timing, and it's like you can tell they are close friends, and like the only way the friends, like I would love to know how much, like say, was ad-libbed and stuff, because not all that must be like scripted from.
Watch their podcast and they'll tell you, because they're going through each episode. They're only on, there's some episodes where they don't do that and they are just talking, but in quite honest, there's not a lot of ad-lib.
That's surprising, actually.
They do right. Whatever's written on the script is, they can change things, minor things, but in their head, they spend a lot of time in that writing room.
But to be fair, Sam, there is only one podcast that people should be watching.
That's very true. That is very true.
Stop promoting other podcasts.
It's so good though. To be honest, Paul, it's like a show. It's just like an extended version of the show because it's the three of them with Megan, who you'll come to love. She's one of the writers.
But we're getting told off by Charlotte for saying content as well, so because we're doing an episode.
God damn it! Right, you've been watching Always Sunny. What else?
I'm gonna go back to the really weird show that I'm actually obsessed with, Moonshiners, which is a new episode this week where they've been trying to make some whiskey from barley, and I was fascinated by it because these two blokes in dungarees were getting upset because the wheat had been invested by weevils, and wheat prices are through the roof, and wheat prices are through the roof at the moment in America, so they couldn't afford to buy more wheat, so they were thinking of ways to make the wheat fine, and kill the weevils without spoiling the corn. So they were microwaving them, they were freezing them, they were using dry ice. But it was the most fascinating half an hour I've ever watched on TV. Honestly, I really wanted them to kill these weevils without damaging the corn.
Did anyone sing "Weevils Wobble, but they don't fall down"?
I don't think they do that in America. No, they were more talking about the prophets, and they're keeping away from the law because one of the guys. This is how funny it is because it's American reality TV show, so it's staged as fuck, but they put it as real type thing. But one of the guys is being chased by the fire marshal, because they found gear in his house and there was a fire, but they found all the tins and the moonshine. So he's been living in the woods, apparently, and hiding away, and he's getting angry at the other people because they keep bringing him shit food. But they've got a film crew following them around, so they're doing something that's highly illegal in America because they don't pay tax on the profits they make, but they've got a fucking film crew.
I mean, Duck Dynasty got away with it for so long, so,
Certainly. But honestly, it's on Discovery Channel, just Moonshiners. It's one of the most fascinating and weird thing you'll ever watch, but they make like a moonshine that tastes of cherries, licorice, apple pie and stuff like that. So some of the flavours, but what they charge for a jar, it's like you need a fucking fortune just to be able to afford this stuff. But it's like 50 quid a jar and stuff, like $50 a jar and stuff, but they're selling by cases. And it's just one of the most bizarre things I've ever watching them trying to get weevils out of corn. So yes, that was how entertaining my week has been.
Goodwill, you were on the last time we mentioned this program. Isn't it hilarious how much his face lights up when he talks about it?
I can genuinely see in about 10 years' time when Paul just has enough and goes, fuck it, just retire into some backwater in the middle of buttfuck nowhere in America with
in Middlesbrough, shall we say?
No. That's inbreeding. I'm on about moonshine. In your dungarees. In your dungarees with your coonskin cap, right? Just sat in the middle of it and just occasionally just going propane and just continuing to make whiskey. I need that for you, Paul. I need that.
And that's why we need this podcast to grow, so I can have that reality. So yes.
This is the aim.
Guys, let him live the dream.
Tried Billy Bootleggers in Newcastle then, because that's what they do. They do moonshine.
Oh, cool. I want to make friends with them.
You have to go at some point because it's incredible. But yeah, I think you'd be in your element straight away.
But I'll be disappointed if they're not wearing dungarees and trying to blow each other up with these massive steels that they keep putting together and putting starch around them to keep thinking the massive amounts of pressure that they did. One of the fuckers being idiots decided to make a wooden steel. The amount of pressure and thing that these things go in, and he didn't expect it to explode. Fuck off.
But
yes,
the passion you show.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, my week. So I've been very poorly. So all I've done is just watch shit on the telly, and I finally watched The Shape of Water.
Right.
I have now seen it, and it was fantastic. I also watched Being the Ricardos with Javier Bardem and what's her name, Nicole Kidman, doing Lucille Ball and Debbie.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, and it was so good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But what I've mainly been watching is the Saw franchise, because when I get sick, apparently I just want to watch a load of gore. So And it leads nicely into this week's episode. So
Cool.
I'm going to do the disclaimer, and then we're just going to get into franchises. So,
And for Sammy, this is the disclaimer that she's done on the BBC. Remember, guys.
that's
She was on the BBC,
Jessica,
didn't she?
Jessica, if you didn't know, Jessica, this was heard on the BBC. So you know. Privileged. So everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us in the Facebook group where we can have an open discussion. What we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong. We can all agree to disagree in fandom, so let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behaviour out of nerdism.
Yes, well done. And
Thank you.
so yes, the main topic of SIT is favourite franchise. So my question to start with as well, because like I say, I've tried having a conversation with this about my dad today, and I wanted to bang my head against the wall. I'm not going to lie, because he was telling us everything I was talking about was not a franchise. I was like, well, what would you define as a movie franchise, or not even a movie franchise, like a franchise thing? Because he started shouting at us saying that McDonald's was the biggest franchise. I was like, possibly, but I'm not saying it's my favourite. So yes, so what would you what would you classify as say a franchise? I keep wanting to say movie, but moving away from the movie aspect, but say the franchise aspect. So Goodwill, I'll start with you. Media franchise, yes. Yeah, I know you with your media experience, Goodwill, you'll be fine with that one.
Oh God. What would I consider a franchise, or what is my favorite franchise?
What would you consider? We'll go up to the favorites in a little bit.
Oh, what would I consider a franchise? It's hard to really pin down, isn't it? If you look at, well, let's take Star Wars for an example. Star Wars, I would say that and James Bond were the first franchises.
Okay.
Because if you look at Star Wars, it was 3 movies, 3 and done. That was it. But for 20 years, that was a franchise because it created a cult following. It had loads and loads of toys. It became embedded into the psyche of a generation, and then another generation, and then another generation. A franchise, I think, is something that just has such a profound effect that lasts. So like I said, to a lesser extent James Bond, because obviously that shit started in the 60s and that's still going on. Star Wars, Indiana Jones to a lesser extent as well. These are what I classify as media franchises.
Cool. What about you, Jess?
I think, defining franchise, it's when something's garnered, Star Wars especially, when you start seeing it being referenced in everything else. Family Guy did a whole series of the first few movies. When you start getting into that, and it becomes literally pop culture, you don't even need to have watched the original. You will already know what it is. As soon as someone mentioned, I know that. I think that's when you hit franchise level, or if you get multiple spin-offs from a core starting point.
Yeah.
And almost like a world building starts to happen. Again, this is happening with Star Wars now, but we've got stuff like Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. As we go onwards.
Yes. It's like a grown entity type thing. What about you, Sammy?
I would agree with what everyone's saying, but it's the brands essentially. It's branding.
Yeah, I agree, but I disagree with. I'm going to be controversial here and disagree with Goodwill for once.
Oh my God!
What? Disagreeing with me?
I think franchises have been around a lot longer than people kind of expect. Because, say, when they started making movies, all they did was wanted to create the franchise. If you look at Laurel and Hardy, the Marx Brothers, say all them type of things, and anything that came with it, anything with Bing Crosby, it wasn't really, the name on the film wasn't important. It was the name of the actor. So you got actors that were the franchise players, and that's where the studios used to kind of bid and pay for the actors to be in their movies solely. So I think that's always been the case, because I think with franchises as well, it's always been about making more money and where the money's like how to grow and get bigger. And even like going back to like Universal horror movies and stuff like that, all have come under the same type of bracket. So it's always been around. I think it's been a phrase that's probably been coined more recently, or over the, when I say recently, probably in the last 30, 40 years than it was back in the day. All that was back in the day was like ways of making money. But that's, again, I think now with the word franchise, it's become a little bit of a dirty word, if that makes sense. Because that's what everyone wants. Everyone wants a franchise. They don't want to make these independent one-off movies or like take risks. Everyone wants to show a thing. And like say a franchise doesn't have to be a movie. It could be like a computer game. It could be like a book, or like say, because as you said, James Bond, when it comes to movies, it got bigger, but James Bond started like say the novels and grew from there as well. So it's always interesting because I like asking that question, because when everyone you mentioned the franchise, they always go to like movies and think of the big ones like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings.
I'm sorry, did you get a tickle in your throat there?
The film about walking, get over it.
I do agree with the Universal thing, because there was a huge thing when obviously Boris Karloff like sort of first appeared. The studios were getting so much money as long as they could say he would be the main feature. Post Frankenstein. And some of the ones that got funded, they would. The writer would go in and be like, before they even handed a script across, it'd be like, but I have this person. It's like, all the money in the world.
Bella hated that because he never had that stature.
Have you seen the sweet thing about what Boris Karloff had actually done at one point? So when obviously the decline of Bela Lugosi happened, I think it is the third Frankenstein film. Bela Lugosi appears in that.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it's Egot.
Yes, he is.
And he basically made them pay him the same rates that Boris Karloff was getting. Because he was like, this guy's a legend. Without him, I wouldn't be stood here doing what I'm doing. Pay him his respects.
He's such a sweetheart.
Yeah, also campaign for the Screen Actors Guild as well, that all actors should get paid fair wages for what they're doing. He's a really interesting person. It's a great documentary on Prime to watch of him. Sorry,
we need to talk.
No.
We have an episode coming up soon, so we need to talk. But you are right, Paul. When it comes to franchise, it's not people were franchises. Marilyn was, Elvis was, Elizabeth Taylor to a certain degree. They were all part of a franchise because they were all contract players, and a contract player is essentially
a franchise.
Oh,
definitely, and as we said earlier as well, I don't know why I can't speak at the moment tonight. It's one of them days, I think.
You've had a long week.
With a lot of like say the actors as well, it's amazing that they were billed as like when you watch the movie screens now, their names come up before the actual movie title and stuff like that. It's crazy that like not many movie stars these days would be able to pull that off. I probably like you probably count on one hand like names of big actors that would come before that you would say, oh, I would say that actor before even finding out about what the movie's about. I think Tom Hanks probably plays that part
absolutely.
And Leonardo DiCaprio to a degree type thing, just because it's going to be interesting depending on what type of role he's going to get. But I always get a little bit sad when I think about franchises as well, because as we always know, I am the biggest 80s nerd going, and I do think during the 80s there were more risks taken. There was more like one-off films where they weren't expecting a franchise, they were just looking to make a movie, unless like you can turn it around and say not the movie was the franchise but the director, like say, because everyone thinks not of the movies but a John Hughes movie. So you can say, name it so many different films from that era, like John Hughes would have done it, or Steven Spielberg would have been involved.
Yeah, Spielberg, for sure.
So that in them aspects, I think, I'm probably my judgment's a little bit clouded, like say with nostalgia when it comes to the 80s. But I do think there was more risks taken back then. There was more like say like films like License to Drive. They weren't expecting to do a sequel to that. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, even though there's been hinted about so many years, but you can't really follow that. And
Please
again,
don't.
And again,
First one's terrible.
I'll talk about it now. I'll get it out of the way. The Goonies, for example, like say it's a one and done movie. You don't need to do any more. If you do, it's not going to work. It's not going to have the same magic. But there's ways and means of doing it. I know there's talk of now of how they're going to do a TV show apparently. But again, like I say, I'm not going to slate it and stuff like that. But then they flip the mold and you get Back to the Future, which shouldn't work as a sequel, but as a trilogy is probably one of the best trilogies that was ever made. And again, to me, it's still, I would class as one of the biggest franchises out there, because the merchandise and everything that still go about still goes crazy. So coming back to like the franchise topic though, I'm quite interested to know what you would class as your favorite franchise. So I'll go to you first for that, Sammy.
Oh, me. Well, it's going to be an obvious one. It'll always be Ghostbusters. If it's media franchise, it will always be Ghostbusters. And it initially didn't start that way. It only had then 2 movies. Do you class 2 movies as like a franchise base?
Yeah, because it's had a cartoon, it's had books, it's had games, so it's everything that comes with it. Yeah.
Now I'm just thinking back then, would I have said it was a franchise? But now, given the media that comes with it, you've got new movie last year before.
Last year.
Year before?
It was last year, yeah, it was last year.
2021.
2021. We're in 2023.
Still last year.
And then you've got the new one coming at the end of the year, and you've had the 3rd installment, which will not argue over. I have no problem with it. So yeah, Ghostbusters, to round that off, Ghostbusters.
So Ghostbusters, is that just for the nostalgia feel, or is it just because of the quality?
Both.
Good.
Both. I still think Ghostbusters to this day holds up.
Yeah.
I still think it's a hilarious film. But yeah, it's probably a lot of, if you're balancing the scales, probably more nostalgia than.
So I'm going to admit that, like, I'm a bigger fan of the second one than I am the first one, the originals.
Me too.
And I'm going to do this. Like, this will happen a lot. I'm really sorry if this is like random trivia about movies.
No,
you just have to crack away.
So the character of Viggo in the painting. There is a fantastic article how they put so much money and work into him, where the actor was actually stood in the painting, and if they shot it from the front, it looked 2D. If they just moved to the side, he would protrude out. And they cut it all from the film, and they decided just to CGI it instead when he like pushes forwards. And it's absolutely good. So much more terrifying, that whole, if you just turn ever so slightly, he is there in the room. But it's a fantastic villain as well, because he's just terrifying.
The actor didn't appreciate a lot during that film. He had very much his Darth Vader moment where he went to the screen and realized that's not his voice.
Yeah.
And they didn't tell him. And the same thing happened with Darth Vader as well.
But apparently, though,
yeah,
apparently rumors is that Viggo is going to be playing a part in the new Ghostbusters movie as well.
See, I love
make sense.
The return of Zuul, and because it's fantastic in the first one. This is why the second one is more my favorite, because you actually see the villain. In the original, she's probably in it for about 30 seconds before they change it and Stay Puft.
Yeah.
So it's great seeing her in full. A little bit gutting on cosplay because they made her costume way more complicated now.
Yes, indeed. And to me, she didn't feel as tall as what I remember her being in the original. I don't know. It felt too short for me. That's just my personal aesthetic on it. But I love the fact that on the newest one, it made sense because Shandor and the religion and everything all kind of fit into place. So I hope if they are going to use Viggo, they're going to try and do it in the same, and it's not going to be a forced thing. Like, this kind of made sense. Like, Ego would go there because of what was, this temple that was there to this religion that he had been following from the 80s. So it did, that all made sense. So I've got high hopes.
Cool.
I'm not gonna, let's be honest, I'm not gonna fucking hate it. If I can't hate the third one with the females in there, I'm not gonna hate this one either.
No, cool. What about you, Goodwill? Are we getting the pointy ears out now?
You all know what my answer is. You know it's Star Trek.
Yes.
You know, come on, it's me.
I will not do that.
It's
Come on, Goodwill, man. What is it?
I've already told you it's Star Trek.
Oh, Star Trek, sorry.
She's just getting excited by the reference of coming on Goodwill, but yeah.
Oh, just the subtlety of it.
To the reference of Paul coming on me. Oh my. Yeah, I mean that is my favorite franchise, hands down. Going back to what you said though, you know, when we were defining franchises, I do think the 80s was the turning point and the evolution of franchises. Star Trek, obviously, we had a TV series, we had an animated series, and then we had nothing until 79. After the effects of Star Wars, after studios were scrambling to like be the next franchise. And you always get that franchise rivalry where it's like, oh, you are the Star Wars, the Star Trek. I'm both. Get over it.
Yeah.
You can enjoy two or more things, guys. Come on.
In the essence, they are basically the same thing, but just done in different ways. One's a ways and one's just exploring.
Yeah. But without both wouldn't exist without the other.
Yeah.
Which is well documented. You know, there wouldn't be Star Wars without Star Trek. There wouldn't be Star Trek without Star Wars. And much like Star Wars, the 80s was where Star Trek truly became a franchise, if you will, with the movies, and still exists to this day, nearly 60 years later. I mean, I have other franchises that we'll probably talk about later that I absolutely adore, but that is my standard go-to. But when it comes to the rivalry, I don't see that rivalry. I've never have, because you can like both, and you have to be grateful, because franchises will save other franchises or help others grow, because people can be inspired by it. They can be, they can learn from other things. So yeah,
the DC franchise couldn't, but she got a bitchiness out. That's it. I'll not be bitchy anymore.
How's Marvel doing these days? Well, yeah.
Better position than DC, but okay.
We'll see. What about you, Jessica? What would you say was your favorite one?
Oh, so I'm torn between two.
You can be greedy. I'll let you have two. Don't worry.
It's a choice between. I am a die-hard Doctor Who fan.
Did not see that coming.
The rant I will go on about time and space and
onto the same thing.
But between that and Game of Thrones.
Right.
Well.
Huge Game of Thrones fan, and so happy now with House of the Dragon. Because I know there's all the controversy over the end of Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And I won't try and question it or anything.
Yeah.
But coming into House of the Dragon, I've never actually watched anything as good as that before. And yeah, it was mind-blowing. It's so exciting knowing that they are looking to progress through more stories and sort of spin off into different areas of Westeros that we've not seen yet. Yeah, like that's one of my top ones.
Yeah, I am a huge Game of Thrones fan. And actually, my new Patreon series starts very soon. Jaime Lannister.
Oh, you're Jaime.
Yes. That is going to be one of my arguing points of my new Patreon series that's coming very soon to Patreon.
Subscribe for more.
But if you want to hear a Game of Thrones rant, go back to episode. Which one was?
I'm not going to give you the number. It was a Game of Thrones. It was a top 5 TV shows.
TV shows. I can't remember which one it was now. It was one of the earliest ones.
5 or 6.
I put it as one of my top favorite shows, but had a huge, massive rant about it and got incredibly angry over it. because they ruined a franchise. Then D&D will be forever known as destroying a franchise. However, the new showrunner, who has actually just left of House of the Dragon, has given me hope. Because House of the Dragon was fantastic television. I just don't know where it's. I don't know where it's going to go. And also, kind of got ruined in Game of Thrones, because if you listen carefully, I'll tell you the whole story of the Dance of the Dragons. So there you go.
I know the Dance of the Dragons story, so going forwards, it is going to get really good. Like, we've only seen like the very first like steps into how intense this gets. There are certain scenes that I'm just craving to see on screen.
Who is your favorite character? Not in House of just Game of Thrones in general.
Jorah Mormont.
I get that. Hot piece of man.
Such a simp for him. He's just my. Oh, I love Jorah so much. I did cry when he died. I even got a text from my friend on the morning, double checking I'd seen it, and then sent me a condolences because he'd gone.
Oh, that's so sweet. And are you team green or black? Because this will define our friendship.
Oh, right. So definitely with the blacks. Even though in Dance of Dragons you shouldn't be with the blacks, but the way they're portraying them in the TV show,
yes,
you can definitely get. They're going for a different perspective on this.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of on the thing of it's not really.
Well,
green versus black.
I'm reading Fire and Blood. I'm reading Fire and Blood at the moment. Team black. Always team black.
It's Damon every time. He just pulls you in.
Beautiful. That's fine.
Well,
sorry, our Game of Thrones thing. I apologize.
No, it's fine. Don't worry.
It's the only time I get to talk when people mention like the like, and I'm like, someone else I can actually talk about it.
No, it's fine. I liked Game of Thrones. I just didn't like the ending, or I couldn't get into House of the Dragon. It wasn't for me. But again, that just down to personal choice or personal thing. I'd say when it comes to fantasy, I like the little sweet Willow type thing rather than like say. But like say Lord of the Rings, as we've always found out, I'm not the biggest fan of type thing, but. I'm gonna go probably a little bit left field and probably something a bit controversial here. So my favorite franchise is Disney.
Oh, look at him! Look at him. He has to like outdo everyone, doesn't he?
Because like say that's what I grew up on when I was a kid, watching all the Disney movies, and like you can't get a bigger franchise because it doesn't matter what the title of the film is, what the film is about. You saw that logo come up and you knew it was going to be quality, and you got better when we got Pixar involved as well. So all the different aspects and things grew on from there, and I still get excited when we get a new Disney film or get a new Pixar movie, and like say going to Florida and going to Disney World as well. What more of a franchise player can you be there? Going to that they've got a parks dedicated to their movies.
They have a lot of parks.
Yes.
But it doesn't surprise us given our last top 5 with the villains that you would go down the Disney route.
To be fair though, you were picking some weird freaky fuckers and I was picking Lotso the bear.
That was the best that. We were all like proper manic with our choices and he comes out with a fucking bear.
Look at him. How scary is the bear? He's there. He's still here. He's still watching over us. He's still
it was
judging
like the
us.
most. His corner was the most sweetest and light, and we had like the worst and the worst of the worst of people. And Paul was just a shining beacon of light.
Was it like I'll pick the Sheriff of Nottingham from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, like Alan Rickman, and you were picking like some like I think someone like Irreversible or like it was just fucked up.
Yeah, mine was like Buffalo Bill from Green Mile and what's his face from Schindler's List, and you've then got the bear.
Yeah.
The bear.
And the bear is
the bear's got his own spot now. He's been on this podcast quite a few times.
It's terrifying. He's like, see, he'll still fuck you up, and you'll never find a teddy bear that'll smell like was it strawberries? And he'll strawberries, and he'll still kick the shit out of you. So yes, but yeah, I think like say if you're going to go for franchises, like again, to try and not be as like so. Like if I'm talking about franchise movies, of course it's going to be Back to the Future. There's no other franchise that stood the time or anything like that. But when it comes to, I would say, bigger picture, like what it's given us in like personally and like to myself, like with Disney for that, just because they've got live action movies as well. They've got all the different aspects, and I know they've got other companies that I think they own Miramax for a certain while, because people were kicking off when Pulp Fiction got released. It was a Disney movie behind the scenes that was released.
All right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was lots of controversy when it come to like Miramax and being a Disney-owned company.
I can't think of which one Miramax is. It's not. It has no. It's not. I was thinking, is that the
No, it's
what
not
do you
that
call
one.
it? It's not that one.
No.
You know where I was
know which
going.
one you mean.
Yeah.
And no, it isn't.
Right.
But yes,
I just anytime I think of Miramax, I think of Scream, another franchise.
Yep. But like as I said, I think with Disney as well, like you get the good and you get the bad. But money wise and what they've brought out as well, like I would say, like hand on my heart, now that Disney technically does own Marvel and does own Star Wars, Indiana Jones, they are basically the biggest players out there when it comes to franchises as well. And it's scary to think what they can put out, what they can't put out, and what they can stop us watching and what they can give us. Because I remember when I was a kid as well, because Disney were one of the clever ones where after they've brought the movie out, they didn't bring the video cassette straight away. You had to wait like a year and a half for the video release.
And then rights, did you?
And they only let it release it for 6 months, and then they used to pull it. So you used to only have a short window to get these Disney movies, so they made them more desirable. And it was such a clever idea and way to do it. And of course, with us being kids and wanting these movies, it like I say, they used to catch you out so many times with how they used to do it. Especially, I think the biggest ones was when like The Little Mermaid and The Beauty and the Beast got released.
Yeah.
Like I remember the clamour, and like say I wanted to buy Gremlins, but my mum bought us Little Mermaid just for her. But say that. But talking about Disney as well, because I know going back to villains. So, what is your favourite Disney villain? Would you say?
Oh. What's her name from Emperor's New Groove? What's that?
Oh, Yzma. Yes.
Yzma. Come on.
The leather conch.
It's Eartha Kitt, and she has some of the most quotable lines going. Like me and my sister quote her constantly. I fucking love her. The look of her is haunting, like absolutely haunting. Like them cheekbones, they look like they're gonna cut somebody. Yeah, it has to be her. She's fucking fantastic.
What about you, Goodwill?
Mr. Burns. Ha! Get it? Because they own The Simpsons.
I'll allow it.
Really? Scar from The Lion King.
Oh yeah.
Long live the king.
We'll not get you to sing this week. Don't worry.
Thank God.
Oh, it's a shame.
What about you, Jessica?
Clayton from Tarzan.
Right. Very underrated
has
one.
One of the most graphic and like harrowing deaths as well. Like you actually see what happens to him. It does it in a shadow, but when the lightning clicks, you can see that he's accidentally hung himself in the vines.
Yes.
He's brutal.
I cannot watch that film. That's the one with Phil Collins constantly singing every 15 seconds, isn't it?
Greatest soundtrack ever.
Oh,
I know.
my
It was good. Yeah.
It really bothered us.
Don't be dissing Phil. There's nothing wrong with Phil.
I loved it. I was a huge Genesis fan as a kid, but it's just every 15 seconds you can just hear him come on, and I'm like, another song.
I think mine, I'm trying not to get the name wrong, but I think it was, I love the film, but I'm sure it was Rattigan from Basil the Great Mouse Detective, just because there's been a big, huge Sherlock Holmes fan as well. So I love that aspect and how menacing and actually angry and scary, and that fight scene, was it on the Big Ben's clock as well? I think I'm talking about the right film here.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
I remember Basil the Great Mouse Detective.
But yeah, I absolutely adored that one. But yeah, so that was mine. Talking about other like franchises, because I know there's probably one let's say, genre that do overplay the franchise, shall we say nicely.
Let's be nice. We love this genre.
You do. But I think, like I say, I think it's probably down to budgets and how cheap it is to make horror movies, or was, because they used to always pump out the sequels compared, and it was always about the next franchise and how to get the next ones out. So the quality kind of dipped at times as well. But I love some of the horror aspects in the franchise game, and I think again with us loving horror movies and loving the idea of horror movies as much, when we've tried doing franchise movies from that genre and tried to rewatch them, it's been difficult, shall we say?
It's been hard work. The last one we did, Freddy, that I couldn't know. It was Friday the 13th. I was determined to get through, but I couldn't find all the links for it. It was taking time, and I was getting very frustrated. So I watched what I could. Freddy, I just give up. I was like, I'm just going in with what I've watched, because I cannot put myself through that. They do like to just, the horror loves to jump on a bandwagon and just ride that fucking pony until it can't physically go anymore. Certainly. And horror franchises are very much like that.
But talking about say favourites as well. So in the genre with horror franchises, what would you say would be your favourite horror franchise?
Oh, that's so fucking hard. That's hard.
So Jessica's eyes lit up there, so I'll go to Jessica with that one.
It's really difficult. I suppose on effect and setting the narrative universal. If we're going for 80s sort of slot, proper, I was a huge Hellraiser fan. I have to stop at the end of the second one. I can sort of enjoy the third one because it was a childhood movie. It's one of the first horrors that I watched where I've got months of just being traumatized by it. I do still enjoy the Nightmare on Elm Streets. Jason's a bit of fun,
Yes.
As they progressed, it wasn't about the story. It was how interesting we make these kills. We've got to up the body rate and how ridiculous some of them are.
Especially in the remake one. It's in the remake one with what's it called? Moose out of Supernatural. I can't remember his name. Jerry Paudetli's version. When it just basically was how many different ways you can get people to show the lass's tits while they're killing them. When she's under the water and he dips his machete in his head and pulls her out just so that her boobs pop out. I was like, this is just hilarious. But yeah, we did do a Friday the 13th episode where we went back and watched all the Friday the 13th movies, and as a franchise, it's one of the ones that gets progressively better. Because when you watch the first one and the second one, let's be honest, it's awful. The acting and stuff is so hammy. But because they get ridiculous, it actually gets more entertaining. Jason Takes Manhattan is one of my favourites. It's just absolutely brilliant, how it's done and how stupid it gets as well. And then you get Jason X when Jason's in space. Just come on.
It's just a sleeping bag scene for me.
Yeah.
Slamming her across the tree. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Oh, I'd love to have been in the writing room for that. Right.
Cool.
Jason's going to space.
Is Goodwill showing up his horror chops now?
I don't know.
I don't have any horror chops.
All right.
Not really a fan of horror, to be honest with you.
What about horror games?
I mean, the first Resident Evil on the PS1. One that Graham mentioned a few podcasts ago, Nightmare Creatures, on the PlayStation 1. That was the first game where it scared the living daylight out of me, and I just went, nope, turned off the PlayStation 1 and just didn't play it for a couple of days because I was just like, no. I'm an absolute wuss when it comes to horror. I hate jump scares. I can appreciate it as a genre, just it's not for me.
You could have picked Gremlins.
You could have.
Yes, but then the chat would explode with, what would you do if you urinate on one? And...
we still need to know
It's a long-standing question. Yeah, it's a long-standing question. We need to know what happens to these little things if you piss on them. I'm really struggling to pick because there's so many.
Right.
I love Friday the 13th. I love Halloween, Scream, but I'm gonna go with the one that always keeps us like now, as in nowadays, keeps us quite excited, and I'm willing to give them a chance every time. Is The Conjuring.
Right.
Oh my god, yes.
And I'm willing. I get like The Nun 2's coming out this year. I wasn't a big fan of The Nun, basically because I couldn't see it. The cinema I went to could not make out anything, and Carolyn's trying to tell us it's my eyes, and I'm like, no, like I cannot physically make out the picture. It's that dark. However, I'm still excited for it. I get myself kind of hyped up for when they've got new films coming out. So I'm gonna say The Conjuring.
Oh, cool. It's one of them ones where it started so strong, like I said, it has progressed, and you've got like, was it The Curse of Lalaurie, what it's called?
Lalaurie.
That again had a good premise, but kind of didn't live up to like things. I don't know with the Annabelle as well. Again, like it's all stemmed from like say the James, is it James Wu?
James Wan.
James Wan.
James Wan.
Yeah, sorry. I'm really good with names. I've always, like I say, the problem. But his ideas always start from like the same place because he did the Insidious ones as well, and they all again
and Saw.
So
he's very good at starting franchises.
Yeah. Like say horror wise, because I've got so many horror favorites, but when it's franchise wise, it always kind of lets you down. Like say Jaws, great starting point, but then you get to Jaws Revenge, and you're getting attacked by the cousin of a shark that remembers that you killed it as revenge. It gets a bit beyond belief. And Michael Caine just going, no, blow the bloody doors off. Oh, sorry, wrong film. Halloween, again, strong starting point, but then it goes all over the place. I would have preferred if they kept on doing the idea with Halloween 3 with the different stories each Halloween. That would have been, like say, interesting franchise. But I hate to be predictable because the chat's already mentioned it and they've been going up, but the Final Destination ones never let you down. They're always great jump scares, and every single one of them are entertaining. There's not really a weak movie, even though the premise gets bad, and I love how they tied it up at the end as well, like how it went full circle back into the original. And again, I love how they try and make the deaths as ridiculous and like I'm like the palest person in the world. I'm never going to go into a tanning bed. Like to start with, but watching the Final Destination movie was like, that's definitely not going to make me go in it again. And I bet you every single one of us, if you're in a car and you're behind a truck full of fucking anything big, you get the flashback and you think, I'm moving out to that lane, or that 100%.
Back straight away. If I see anything that's got, it's not so much, it's the cars. When they have the cars on top of the back of the lorry, I will get away from that as quickly as I physically can. That is terrifying.
And I remember going to being in Florida, going to Busch Gardens, and they had a roller coaster that was made out of wood.
It's awful. It's fucking awful.
And it's more like it's the weirdest experience because it's a roller coaster, so it's not meant to be comfortable, but you feel every bump and every ridge that's in because it's all like proper old school roller coaster. But after sitting on it, all I could think of was the Final Destination because you're hearing the bumps and you're hearing the rattles and you see things moving. You think, this is not going to end well.
Yeah, I totally. I'm not the biggest fan of the Final Destinations, and it's basically just I haven't given them a chance. I watched the first one, and that's as far as I got. I didn't. My horror was the slasher genre, even though it kind of is like as in kill wise, but I was more into like Freddy and not Freddy, didn't like him, Jason and Michael and such like that. But I have really like this last week I've been watching the Saw franchise, and I have just found such an appreciation for them films that I never had before.
I think because Saw gets a lot of shit for being like a gore hound or like torture porn. But the first Saw movie is one of the cleverest horror movies that you'll ever watch. like I say, it changed the rules and changed how things kind of work type thing. And I have to give Saw its credit because even though it was beating a dead horse, it kept the continuity throughout.
Yep.
Not many horror movies or even movies in general can keep, like say, the continuity going through every single one. And even I think the most recent one was Spiral with Chris Rock, and I thought I would absolutely despise it because Chris Rock is the most irritating man in Hollywood. But he was entertaining, and he wasn't Chris Rock in this movie, and that's probably the best thing I can do because the only thing other than Spiral I enjoyed him in was in Dogma. But he was just Chris Rock, but he was in a Kevin Smith movie, so he fit. So yeah, like I say, the Saw franchises I think gets a lot more shit than it deserves. But I think it started the trend as well because, like I say, you got the Hostel movies that came out quite soon after, so it kind of gets jumbled in with all that kind of shit.
It's if you're not just looking at the gore aspect of it, the story I find was quite interesting. The first one is genius. Like the writing in that is just pure perfection. Kari, what's his face, is almost unrecognizable as an actor. You can't.
Years to realize that was him.
Kari, I can't think of his name.
This is the same
Kari
guy.
Eels.
Like, oh my god, it is. Like,
he's completely unrecognizable, and just because of how brilliant he's been written as a character. The guy who's with him is the writer and creator of the Saw franchise. Didn't know that until the other day. I love Tobin Bell. He is such the perfect horror icon as John Kramer. He is such an essence, just like a presence. I watched Jigsaw last night, and I honestly didn't have any expectations, but I love the direction that they've gone in, and I hope I think we are getting more. They go with this detective side of things, and the true crime element of it, and the mystery of it, because Jigsaw the ending of it was fucking fantastic. I sat there and was like, what the fuck? What is going on? And I'm sitting next to us, he's got his headphones in, and I'm like, I need someone to talk about this right now.
I think because what they did differently as well. Yeah. What they did differently. Sorry.
Go on, one of you.
Go on, Jessica, let you go.
This one in particular is my favourite how the story panned out. And I can't remember because I've got the collection. I can't remember if it's 4 or 5. But it's where there's a group of them, and every sort of trial they're going through, they're being so selfish about how they're going to do it, and it takes to the very end of the film for them to click. The aim of it was to work together, and all of them would have walked out perfectly fine. Few minor injuries, but you would have gotten out. And it's a great little twist at the end where it's like just purely their selfishness killed them all. They were all given more than an opportunity to just walk out totally fine.
In Jigsaw, one of the best lines in there, and it was so minute. He says, "It's a game," and she went, "Yeah, and games can be won." And I absolutely loved it. And it was it's just a throwaway line, but I absolutely loved that because that is the whole premise of Saw, is that you can walk away from this with your life.
Yes.
You're going to learn a lesson or two, but you could walk away from it. And I don't know, I've just found this whole new appreciation for this movie franchise. Like, I've gone on an absolute storm at the minute.
Yeah, because Saw's a weird one as well, because it's not the usual where you cheer for the victim. You want them to be successful. Because the people that's been chosen have been chosen for a reason. It's not because they're good people. They've done something wrong. I know we're not vigilanteism and so off. It is bad and so on. But it's hard to root for these people. So you have to make basically morality decisions whether what they've done in the past life or like previously is worse than what like say the Jigsaw is doing to them now. Does it even out? And it's like I say, a difficult one. And it wasn't as much with the Spiral one, because like I say, there was elements to it, but generally the people in Spiral weren't bad people or made really many bad decisions. So that's why it kind of took a left turn. It was like say more of a revenge one, but the other ones, it's kind of like these people have made these mistakes in their life that they can learn from the mistakes or learn the lesson, but it's kind of spin on the head. You don't know who to kind of like root for in these movies.
As an audience member, it is an absolute mindfuck of where your heart is meant to go when you are watching this. The most with Jigsaw, Tobin Bell is in it quite a bit, and to see the human side of John was absolutely incredible to see, and understanding his decision making was, because he's just a voice talking through a puppet in the majority of them, but to see he's actually laying out everything for you, and I was in awe of it, and I genuinely didn't think I was going to get much out of this film. I really didn't know that one. I'm going to watch Spiral again because I watched that without seeing Jigsaw, and I want to just see how they play off each other, because I'm hoping that's the theme of where this franchise is going, because if it is, I'm well on board for it.
Cool. So just to go back to something what Goodwill said earlier, because I know, bless him, like say, we're just talking all about horror films. I'll give him a little bit of a,
Goodwill.
Give him a little bit of a respite, because I know, as you said, your favorite franchise is Trek, and that we've had a lot of Trek, like say, over the last few years. What would you say was the strongest, like, time in the franchise's history for you when it comes to Trek?
Mid-90s.
Was that the movies or Next Generation?
It was the series and the movies. I think that the movies paved the way for the series, obviously, and then the mid-90s was sort of the first renaissance of that franchise. 95, 96, where you've literally got 3 television series, movies, everything like that, video games, books, toys. It was like, this was the franchise at critical mass. And people, they call it the golden age when it comes to Star Trek. Like, Star Wars is currently going, or has had its golden age. Well, no, it's going through its golden age. When you look at the success that the TV shows have been having since the movies have completed. So for me, I have very fond memories of that time. I mean, obviously, it was the 90s, and it was like, oh, you're a geek, blah, blah, blah. So, but it was very much an insular thing for me. And I only ever attended one convention in the 90s, which was in Newcastle. But I mean, that itself was an eye-opening event for a kid that's never been. But for me, that was like that peak, and I'm very grateful, because I'm not one of these.
Just about the convention, was any green women there?
Well, as I was 7, I didn't really take notice of it. So, but
there was. He just doesn't want to say.
Stop corrupting me.
Didn't your parents watch this?
My parents were there. But it was.
Was your mum the green woman?
You need to pipe down, you son, I tell you.
At least it's not my mum we're talking about.
Hi, Mrs. Weatherall.
Hi, Mum.
But for me, I'm very lucky to have a franchise that's got its second wind of late. So much like Star Wars again, it's got that second renaissance. So we've got that second golden age, and not many franchises, admittedly, have that sort of re-emergence into popular culture.
Yeah, I think they described Star Trek a few years ago as the franchise that cannot be killed, because there has been a few moments where there's been touch and go where they thought, are they going to recover from this type of aspect? Because, like, as you said, if you're going to talk about toxicity in fandoms and stuff like that, where we try and stay away from, like the Trek ones, they are loyal, which we'll always give them credit for, but they will come down hard on. I can still remember, like, they nearly finished off Tom Hardy's career after was it Nemesis?
He, I mean, it's really sad what happened to Tom Hardy, because Tom Hardy is a hardcore Star Trek fan. And when the role came up, in Star Trek Nemesis, he thought he fought tooth and nail to get there. He was passionate. He read. He reread. When it comes to Star Trek, you don't just have one audition. You have about 10, 11 auditions for a role with like one person in the room, 2 people, 20 people, 30 people. He got it. And this was his breakout role. It was a Hollywood movie. He was a Star Trek fan. He was like, yes, I'm going to be passionate. And obviously the film tanked. And the Star Trek fans, that certain subset, which still sadly exists today, destroyed him. And he almost walked away from acting. He turned to alcohol. He turned to drugs. It was a long recovery for him after Nemesis to get back into acting, and that cements the toxicity of that fandom. I mean, franchises have them.
Yeah.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah. Star Trek sort of it cements the toxicity. Well, it's not all of them. It's not every fan.
No. There's a bad few apples who ruin it for people.
And it's sort of sad. And it goes against everything Star Trek stands for.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can you call yourself a fan of something that is progressive, is inclusive, and and the very core is humanity has evolved from petty squabbles, racism, bigotry, and yet here you are claiming to be a fan of this, being a racist, being a bigot, being a homo, being transphobic. Get out, get in the sea, no room for you whatsoever in this franchise.
Well, I'm just going to say, just to go back to Nemesis before we move further away from it, I am not. We saw it on the Star Trek episode. I am not the biggest fan of Trek, and it's not because I don't like it. It's just I never got into it. My mother is a Trekkie. I am not. But Nemesis, I really enjoyed that film. I went to the pictures scene. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. So when I watched an interview with Tom Hardy, and the internet knows, and I've been dragged many times for it, that I am not Tom Hardy's biggest fan. But to hear the heartbreak of what that did to him, that he worked his arse off for that role, and then all of a sudden the phone stopped completely, and I was broken for him, because for me, as not a Trekkie fan, I thought that was brilliant. I really like it.
There was a lot of parallels. Sorry, Bob.
If you go back through the Star Trek films as well, it's not the worst Star Trek film. There is a lot worse ones than, like, if you even go back to the first Star Trek film, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, is a horrendous movie. It is terrible. Like, if you watch it now, like, even watching it in the 80s, you didn't know what the fuck was going on. Let's be honest.
Even at the screening for that in '79, at the very first screening, they stood up, and the actors, the people who work behind the scenes, just looked at each other and just went, and I thought that was it. It was a one and done. And then 81, 82 came around, and they're like, oh, we want to do Wrath of Khan. And everyone thought, oh, fucking hell, it's going to be. And it wasn't. It turned out, it was featured at Cannes. It was awarded. It was highly decorated. But going back to what Sammy was on about with Nemesis, I drew a lot of parallels with what happened with Tom Hardy with the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And what happened with I forget his name, who played young Anakin. Jake Lloyd. I drew a lot of parallels with that, because again, Jake Lloyd, he got a lot of shit. And at the end of the day, guys, he's paid to say someone else's words and act someone else's in someone else's direction.
Right there.
Well, Hayden Christensen, he's only just recovered now, like, say, from the backlash. But that's the thing, when it comes to these type of fandoms, they can have such a. I know it's getting trying to be holier than thou, though, but people should take responsibility for what they can see or do see on the internet and stuff like that. Like, fair enough. Like, I know we joke saying I don't like Lord of the Rings, but I would never shit on anyone for liking Lord of the Rings. And saying I shouldn't have been a movie about walking, but that's by the by. But
it's a difference of opinion. But you don't stop me from talking about it. You don't tell me that I'm wrong.
No, I
how
mean,
I feel about it.
Yeah.
the toxicity thing, I think for me, obviously, the most controversial one's been what's happened to Doctor Who recently.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And yeah, it's so harsh because obviously poor Jodie Whittaker took all the heat for being the worst portrayal of the Doctor so far.
She wasn't bad. She wasn't bad.
It's nothing to do with Jodie Whittaker. It was to do with the writer, Chris Chibnall. He waded in, he decided, screw everything that came before, I'm doing my own version. And he, unfortunately, yes, he proved he massively failed at the genre. Multiple problems all over the place with canon and very terrible at writing female dialogue as well. Being the guy who was pitching the first female Doctor, he actually wrote it very much as a boy rather than a woman. But it's such a shame because Jodie Whittaker was the one who took all the heat, and there were so many just really horrible, nasty things about the fact, oh, it's a woman.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. Like, again, it's like Star Trek. It's the premise of the show is that it's never been built on that. It's supposed to be open acceptance for everything. You know, it's that beacon of hope show.
Yeah. That's why that's why I always laugh at, like, when people get bent out of the shape with something like a premise like a woman playing the Doctor. It's like, okay, you're upset about a woman playing the Doctor, not a Time Lord that when he dies he regenerates into another being.
Yeah.
And so it's the fact that he's playing a woman is the fact that you can't understand, that you can't get past that aspect. It's like,
but you're okay with the fact that he when he dies he regenerates into another person. That you can accept, but not the woman side of it. Well, it was the same when Ghostbusters and the whole female Ghostbusters came out. They fucking lost their shit. Like, no, women can't carry proton packs. We'll break a nail.
It's not the gender. And, with Ghostbusters 2016, I'm not the biggest fan of that film, but I'm not the biggest fan because I don't feel it was written well. And that's got nothing to do with Melissa McCarthy or anything, like, why? Oh, because it's a woman, right? So they exist.
Yeah.
What is your issue?
I think it's the honesty of a decline of something, and really the heat should have hit the writers. The actors aren't the people writing these things, so they just read from the script. They're given what they're given, and that's all they can work with. But you never see many people jumping on the writers going like,
no.
Not at all.
That's the nail on the head when it comes to Star Trek Discovery, because Discovery's because you've got this one woman, and it's like, no, the writing is not good enough. You shouldn't care. We've had female people in our franchise, and it's worked if the writing is there.
But I think, to flip it on its head as well, we are getting a little bit more progressive in certain areas. No, I agree, but where we are getting the blame correct is things like, as you mentioned before, Game of Thrones. Like, the writers got the shit because they rightly or wrongly did what they did, and the blame was firmly pointed at them, and their attitude afterwards as well was so sickening. And I was glad that they got Star Wars taken away from them. I admit I did have a bit of a chuckle.
Me too. Laugh my arse off.
As well, similar situation as well. Star Wars, the second Star Wars, that was not a bad Star Wars film. It was just poorly written and didn't make any sense to what had gone before. And again, the director and the writer, like, it was Rian Johnson, was it?
Rian Johnson was the director. Yeah.
Rian Johnson. Yeah, he got the shit, and as I said, the third Star Wars film was a little bit better, but was trying to right too many wrongs that the second one and put in place, and had a fucking
the damage was already done.
Like I said, and hurting certain characters that were interesting previously, and then just writing nonsense towards the end. But there is certain aspects where you can see the right people getting the shit what are due. But for things like, as you mentioned, like Doctor Who, or where it's purely just based on the fact that either someone's skin colour's being cast, like the most recent one as well, The Little Mermaid, for example, the shit that people kicked off about, like the amount of shit we had to put up with or try and remove from the Facebook group, because we've got a fictional being that's half woman, half fish, being a different skin color to what they originally had, which again just blows my mind that they can't get past. Like the simple fact that these things don't exist. Sorry if you believe in mermaids, they don't exist.
It's with such things, they all jumped on the bandwagon of, well, it's not the Little Mermaid we know. It's like, no, they cast the actress who's going to be going on to play her because she has the voice. That's exactly what the character's based upon. It has to be someone who literally embodies the whole point of Ariel is her voice.
Wow, you just said it completely spot on there. It's true. Like I've literally no issue with the actress who's playing that, but you are right. It's the voice, and that voice gives you fucking chills. Like she literally within that 2-second trailer that we got of her, tears. I couldn't stop fucking crying over it, and I'm not really a big Little Mermaid fan. I've never.
But do you cry over everything? Come on, you cry when Goodwill talks.
I do. I cry at everything. But to go back to Game of Thrones, and you are right. The writers, the showrunners, D&D, they did get their comeuppance, which rightly so they should have, because when they did the first 4 series, that's all source material. So everything's already laying out for them. And George R.R. Martin can write women, and he can write women's dialogue, and he fucking gets it. And they took massive credit for that up until the point where they couldn't fucking write it anymore. And that's why Daenerys turned out the way she fucking did. But I love
start that again.
No, I won't. I'm calm about it. You are right. I do love the fact that nowadays we are getting the writers are getting their comeuppance for what they did. Like what Hayden Christensen had to go through from the prequels was horrendous. But it was lovely in Obi-Wan Kenobi that even for the minor second that he spoke, that was it. That was the character. That's him.
Apparently, he's going to be cameoing in the Mandalorian season, but I don't know how they're going to do it as a back, like a flashback or something like that.
Oh. If you watch the latest trailer, it will give you the hint of how he's going to come back.
Right. Oh, I haven't. I watched it, but not to the degree where I was paying attention.
We're getting a shot at Order 66, so obviously.
Yeah. Because of course we're getting to find out how Grogu
mowing down kids again.
Because we're going to find out how Grogu gets out of there as well. That's the thing we're going to learn. But one thing, because I know we're talking about favorite franchises as well, but one of the things I did want to talk about, because I think it is a big factor these days, is a little bit of franchise fatigue. So there is a lot of different franchises now, especially like, because a lot of people say that Hollywood now is made of franchises and remakes. There's very few new or thing. Again, I don't think it's a bad thing. Like if you told me 20 years ago that the Marvel Universe would be to the degree we'll get now, I would have took your hands off. I would have paid money for it. But there is a lot of elements when it comes to, like, say, franchise fatigue. And I think Marvel is one of the ones that is teetering, or let's say they're in full blown now. They've started to correct the course, and I think the announcements come out that they're going to do less TV next year or in the next few years, and then going to focus on big events and stuff like that. So again, I think that's been
the Marvel thing. So what's come about with that is that from the start of Iron Man to Endgame, over the course of I think it was 10 years, they spanned that out. Works out some like 20 full films they released in 10 years.
Yeah.
In the last 2, they've released roughly around 21 different things in 2 years.
That's a lot.
Fatigue is kicking in because it's like they are just doing too much now. Where it's like rein it back a little bit.
We spoke about
every 3 months. There's something new from Marvel. If it's not a film, it's a TV show.
Yeah.
It also alienates new viewers, I feel, because
it's
if
the
you're like
as well, like when you putting out that much work, the quality is going to start to decline because everything's on a deadline. It's like, just finish it. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if the SFX system.
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
if the dialogue's right, just get it out.
I think Goodwill's like got a good point there as well, because with a lot of different fan bases and fans coming in, especially if you're new, like imagine like say being introduced to the Marvel universe now and saying, "Oh, I'm excited because Blade's coming out." Okay, if you want to watch Blade, you've got to watch 15 years worth of movies to basically know what's going on. That's intimidating. That's like if that for a lot of people, like say, if I told like say went to my wife, "Oh, we're going to watch like this new TV show, it's going to be exciting." She'd go, "Oh, great. What do I have to do? Is there anything I need to know about?" "Yeah, we're going to watch 17 hours of movies beforehand." She would probably punch us in the balls. So
she would.
So it's not going to happen. But like I said, I think Marvel is the one that's probably failing quite a lot when it comes to like the franchise aspect, because of the success previously they've had. They've done so well. They've kind of like latched on and went great. I think other ones as well. I hate to say it, but Jurassic Park is a one now. We'll get at that stage, not because of all the different shows and everything we've got, but it's the same idea that we're going over and over again with, and it's kind of it was great. Like Jurassic Park, the original is never going to be beaten. Lost World was decent.
Lost World was brilliant.
3 was a bit on the edge. Then they brought it back with like say Jurassic World. Again, same premise as the first one, just larger scale. And they've tried to keep that going when they didn't kind of need to kept going, if that makes sense. So now we've got like say the 2 movies in the one, in Dominion, where it felt like we're watching 2 different movies at the same time, with the old guys and the new guys trying to just get in, and it kind of just didn't work for me. But again, anything with dinosaurs, I'm always going to be all for. I'll watch anything. I'll go to the pictures to see. But it's just a shame now.
Yeah, of course, that's fine.
That's fine. So it's just a shame now with like say different like things that we are getting. It's kind of like saturating it a little bit as well.
I find it sad when I don't have an opinion on the new Jurassic Park films. Like I don't really have that opinion. I don't ever want to see the second one again, ever. I can't watch my favorite dinosaur in the world die. I can't do that anymore. And it's sad because I thought I would get that magic back that we got with the first one, because I never got to see the first one on the big screen. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to see like a whole new starting point, and it's all right.
Certainly. Okay. And again, like not similar franchise, completely different franchise, but we're getting the 4th movie, and like I said, TV show I mentioned before, the John Wick now. Like I say, I'm a little bit worried, like where do we go with John Wick? How do we continue with the energy levels? Because I've admit watching the 3rd one, I know the premise of the 3rd one was to tire you out. The director came out when he wanted to do such long action films like that the audience felt tired afterwards. It's like, how far does this man have to go, and what does he have to do, and how many people does he have to shoot in the face and stuff like that?
How many people hate him? That's the question. How many people really dislike this person? But I am so new to the John Wick franchise that I'm not there yet. I'm really excited that there's a new one coming out, because I'm so brand new to it. But again, when you talk about fatigue, Scream franchise.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be like, see, I love the Scream movies. Even Scream 4, I kind of enjoyed in a sick way. maybe because it had Emma Roberts in, and I thought like Scream Queens and American Horror Story, I absolutely love her in. So, but yeah, the last
worked.
And the last Scream one should have worked, but it kind of didn't for me. But
didn't.
There is something in the last Scream film that I enjoyed. It's the first time that actually made any sort of reference to it, which is really weird that they never did in the previous. First time that David Arquette's like character of Dewey actually mentions that he lost his sister the first time round.
Yes.
Yes. Doesn't get mentioned the second one, or the 3rd, or the 4th.
Yeah.
That his younger sister was murdered the first time. It's the first time he brings it up, and he's in his little cabin, and he's obviously like completely
Rashes are there.
down and out now.
Yeah.
And he makes the point. It's like last time. This is what I lost. So
yeah. But you actually see our ashes too. So there's physical reference to her, which you've not. She was. It almost felt like a throwaway character when she's not. She's quite pivotal to who is now moving on through these films. Spoiler, but he was moving through these films, and he had that heartbreak. But that's not what you were getting. You weren't getting his heartbreak of him losing his sister. It was just all this shite that kept following him going through. There's one aspect of the new trailer that's kind of got us, and it's with all of the
collection
Scream outfit. Yeah, I want to know more about that.
That pulled me in massively. Yeah. I was going to kind of just write it off, and then I saw that clip, and I was like, the nerd in me is just like, I want to go to that. I want to see the costume.
Me too.
I want to touch it.
Let's find it.
So we're starting the rumor now. Is Stu going to be the killer in this one, Sam?
I will honestly. I said it on the last one. It was his house, so I was kind of there. I still think he's alive. I don't think that television did much damage. I really don't.
You catch his Q&As. It's full of horror when he was actually talking about it.
Yeah, I didn't see. I saw more of his interaction in the crowd than I saw his actual Q&A.
He was great because they did bring it up, obviously, with Skeetush returning. He was really cute. He's like, I don't think I died. I refuse to survive a TV being dropped. He's like, yes. And he was literally getting the crowd to sort of shout with him. It's like, yes, Stu is still alive. Like, give me a chance to get back in for one more goal.
I swore blind on the last one that Stu was coming back. I really thought it was as well. That's what I was going for. And I remember in the cinema, and we were going up to Stu's house, and I was this is it, Carolyn, it's happening. Couldn't hit her at the time, she was pregnant, so had to like wave my hands in the air. Normally I'd give Carolyn a good punch when something exciting happened.
I think the obvious choice would be Sydney, and with this Neve Campbell saying that she's not in it and like saying trying to hide that aspect, I think it'll be bullshit if she's not in at all. I think a small cameo, they'll either have to kill her off. I don't think Courtney Cox is making it through this one. But then again, are they making it far too obvious in the trailer that Courtney Cox is not going to survive it, because that telephone call, she's never spoke to the killer on the phone before, ever. It just seems a bit far too obvious that that's where they're going to go, and they could twist it on its head. But I would have just been so happy if Jenna Ortega was leading this franchise. But unfortunately, we have the other girl who's the daughter of Billy. Oh my god, Billy. Her acting ability is terrible. Her delivery is not great. Let's move on to things that we like then, shall we? Rather than just shitting on it. Because I know we're talking about like Marvel and aspects, like to the next big one in the franchise that I never thought I would be seeing in a million years that I'm excited for, but after seeing the trailer and after hearing about it, the new Indiana Jones. Like I say, I loved Indiana Jones franchise. Like say, I'll dare say it, I like the Crystal Skull, even though if people do work on it. If you take Shia LaBeouf out of it, I would have enjoyed it more. But still, I think it's an entertaining film. It's an Indiana Jones film. But I am so excited for Mads Mikkelsen as the main bad guy as well. In this,
I'm gonna be like a mess the moment he comes on screen.
Just start licking the screen or something like that.
I got to meet him in December.
All right.
I was an absolute wreck. There is something fantastic you can ask Mads to do in photos.
Right.
You can ask him to soak you in your photo ops.
Soak you?
Sure. So I went.
Oh, soak you! I was good. I thought he was like spitting on you or something like that. I was good.
I haven't. Okay.
It was fantastic. I was expecting it to be like an obscure request. You just kind of went, "Come here." I'll hold on to you.
But he's beautiful.
Thing is, he's such a lovely person as well. Though he's got an incredibly nice nature for the roles that he plays.
I bet he smells beautiful.
So there were standing orders there for some, so that's fine.
He's the only reason I watched James. really can't stand James Bond films, but he's the only reason I watched one was because he was in it. I am such a fan of that man. He's an amazing actor, brilliant villain.
We need a photo of just Sammy just sat behind him, just sniffing his hair. Yeah, right, Matt.
I'd pay for it.
Jones thing, I'm really looking forward to, because obviously it is defined as this is Harrison Ford's done after this. He just doesn't want to return. So I've seen from the trailer, obviously we're going to see returning characters from the original trilogy. Now with the actor who played Short Round, now obviously he's just come back sort of into the light again. I am dying for him to pop up in it. Like, if he doesn't, I think it's going to be an absolute waste if they don't have him just cameoing for a small moment. So it is kind of the goodbye of all the characters.
I'm sure at Comic-Con last year, when they announced the trailer and like they had the cast on, he wasn't there, but in the same weekend he was photographed with Steven Spielberg. I thought you said this is the first meeting that we've had in years and stuff like that. But again, I think it would be a missed opportunity, even if they haven't filmed it, film it now after everything that's got and stick it in somewhere. Like say, and again, I would like. I think there's been a poster shared. I think I shared a poster of it. The Adventures of Short Round, like what happened after Indy, and having that stories told. I think again, rather than having like a young Indiana Jones or Indiana Jones' son, no, tell that, like say he's in the universe, he's canon. Take that story. I think it would be interesting, and that's a story I would like to I would very much enjoy.
It's definitely Key's year, so I would it would be lovely to see him end it with that. Because it's such a, just watching him over the last few weeks with the awards season coming up and how well he's been doing, it's like, it's just, he makes us cry every time. Like, you think Goodwill can make us cry every time, that because he's just so appreciative of the where he is right now, and even he could be really bitter about what happened to him as a child actor, and the fact that, you know, when he got a bit older, he's not cast. He was, you know, he didn't fit the mold anymore. And he could have been really bitter about that, but instead he's chosen to, that's how it was, and this is how it is now. And I want nothing but nice things. It's like him and Brendan Fraser. I want nothing but nice things to happen to the pair of them.
Yeah.
Definitely. But so just trying to think of like other franchises as well that do stand out. I'm surprised Sammy hasn't mentioned it, because like say she loves like the books and she's loved the movies, the Hannibal Lecter franchise.
Oh my God, the Silence of the Lambs.
Like all the things that we've got from that aspect as
a franchise.
as a psychological thriller or horror, whatever you're saying, like the elements that we've got, like going all the way from Red Dragon, like say Hannibal, like say Silence of the Lambs, then the Hannibal TV show, and like say the other aspects, like, and even having like Brian Cox, like his version as Manhunter as well, like
so good.
Like how many like stories can you tell about serial killers and like say cannibals and still be entertained? And it keeps it going. I think that's more to do with like the writing in the books being as well as they are. But I'll be amiss to say that.
I'm sure there's a TV series now of Clarice as well, but I think unfortunately it was a one and done. I think it is the guy from Walking Dead who played Abraham. I think he's in it.
I watched the first
I've heard of this.
I watched the first 2 episodes. It's literally I think 6 months after the Silence of the Lambs. Clarice is just getting back in the field after. No, actually not 6 months. I think it's a little bit longer than that, because Clarice went to like be a superstar and then flopped like massively. So basically she got given this case, but it's all about the senator's daughter who survived, who Clarice saved, keep trying to contact Clarice and wanting to relive or reconnect, because with Clarice saving her, but Clarice wanting to forget what happened with like say Buffalo Bill. It was okay. It just it started becoming a generic cop show, which you don't want with Silence of the Lambs type aspect. Like Hannibal done it so well. Hannibal got things so right, like say with telling the story and how how to change it up but keep it the same as well at the same time.
And having Mads Mikkelsen as Hannibal Lecter was absolutely such an incredible choice. The only thing that I could not get away with, and this is solely based on my love of Red Dragon. It is my favorite fictional book. It is. I love the film. Is the Will character. There was just something. Will was clever and he was smart and but he wasn't like he didn't psychologically. He was very much he liked to question things, but he never liked to question himself, and he never got lost in himself, and that's the part of it I could not get away with. That just did not feel like Will Graham, the Will Graham that I've read, and that didn't feel like him. But besides that, the whole series aesthetically was beautiful.
It was Brian Fuller, wasn't it? Brian Fuller, wasn't it, that directed it?
Yeah, and he's going to be doing the new Friday the 13th.
Yes.
TV series.
It's Crystal Lake or something. It's supposed to be referred to.
It'll look absolutely stunning, if nothing else.
So that gives us, like, say, before we do a wrap up as well, I wanted to ask a few more questions. We've talked a lot about movie franchises and stuff like that. What would you say about TV franchises? Would you say would be stand up? And what would you class as your favorite TV franchise out there? Or the biggest one that comes to your mind?
Well, everyone's screaming Supernatural in this chat.
To be fair, though, Supernatural is not going to get a look in this conversation. Let's be honest. Let's see, I love Supernatural, but 15 seasons and.
If you look for TV, Friends.
Yeah.
I think nothing. It's very rare that. Oh God, how long has it been? Nearly 20 years after it finished, 18 years after it's finished. There's still Friends Fest. There's still reruns. People still talk about it. People still reference it. After 20 years after it ended, it's still in the public consciousness.
Yeah, even last year, a makeup line was brought out with Friends. It's crazy.
But going to shops like going to Primark, there's still Friends merchandise. Go to loads of these like Be More Geek and everything like that. It's still Friends merchandise. There's still the tours. It's the same with the Big Bang Theory.
Without Friends, we wouldn't have the Big Bang Theory or How I Met Your Mother or any of these. They've all been trying to get to the same level that Friends, what they did. Everyone's been trying to get the same sort of like status.
We wouldn't have Always Sunny, because Always Sunny was on the premise of let's take Friends and do everything the opposite of what they would do. Let's make you hate the main cast of Friends, and so you wouldn't have Always Sunny if you didn't have Friends.
But this is the truest portrayal of Ross ever. Like, it's on the nose.
What are you going to say that, Goodwill?
You think of all the sitcoms that came out in the 90s that just could not live up to Friends, despite some of them beating Friends concurrently every week. Like Everybody Loves Raymond. That was #1 in America. That was, Friends was in the shadows when it came to that. You've got Third Rock from the Sun, Frasier. But to this day, yes, we love all those sitcoms, but Friends is still at the top.
Crazy.
It's absolutely, it's insane. This 10-year run of this sitcom had such an impact. It was that generation's MASH.
But
we are doing an episode on Friends, so I'm going to keep my trivia till then.
Content.
Thing is that I love about Friends as well, when they announced their anniversary, like, because it was like so much love and but disappointing at the same time, because we thought we were getting a new episode or a new like feature length thing. That's when it was announced.
Where are they now, kind of thing.
But when they announced, I think it was Jennifer Aniston, who created an Instagram account and posted a picture saying it's coming back. It broke Instagram.
Do you know why? Because of what was shot in the picture.
What was it?
There's a picture of all of them where they stood there. Somebody's got their phone turned over with some very questionable white lines on the phone in the background.
Was it Matthew Perry by any chance?
It was like, oh wow, Jennifer Aniston joined. Oh, Friends. What is that in the corner of the picture? Somebody didn't check it before they uploaded it to crop it out.
Oh dear.
Wow. Matthew Perry.
Rumors.
Yes. I'll keep all my trivia friends to our episode, so I don't give away things. But
Oh,
you
guys.
are right. It's like it's unreal to think that show is still. We still almost talk about it like it came out yesterday.
The Simpsons.
Simpsons.
It's the same thing. It's in the public
Still
consciousness.
going.
Yeah. It's in the public consciousness.
Yeah, I remember when the Simpsons Halloween special used to be the staple for Halloween. Like Treehouse of Horror, Halloween did not start until you watched that. But I know years gone by, like say, I can't believe that the Simpsons is still going. Like they are clearly, and let's not. I'm not going to be a dick about this, but they've clearly run out of ideas. Like the last Halloween special, it was better, but the ones before has always been like say not to the standard that they were. They've went away from actually storytelling. But the thing with the Simpsons as well, it is transcended just a TV show. It's been a movie. There's been multiple games. There's been comics. There's so many things that has came out from like say that macro and like we wouldn't have like say Futurama or was it Disenchanted that we got now?
Disenchanted.
Yeah, and
Family Guy wouldn't have been a thing.
Family Guy. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
I love Family Guy. I put it on when we leave the house. I put it on for Beatrice in the background noise.
Poor cat. No wonder it's just demented.
She's screaming outside as well if nobody can hear her. She's going absolutely ridiculous. I can hear Anthony talking away to her.
But like say more recently as well. I like I say that success wise, I think probably not up there with Friends, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer probably has the same type of fanfare or lore now because, as you said, they got the comic strips that came out afterwards to keep telling the story. You got the spin-off, and not many TV shows do have successful spin-offs. I know you can probably count like Frasier and stuff like on one hand, but Angel was a success. So I would count Buffy as up there as like not Friends level. Nothing's going to be Friends level. Let's be honest.
No.
But as a pop culture icon, like Buffy still holds up.
With Buffy, yeah, I think it hit that mark for everyone because when Buffy came about, obviously there was the original film.
I love that film so much.
Loose is your goose.
My goose is totally loose.
Wrote the character of Buffy was done so well that it was targeted towards a teen sort of female audience. And never once did they ever drift away from the fact that she was just a teenager.
Yeah.
And it did deal with the fact of obviously her trying to balance her life as well as what she was doing and giving quite an honest portrayal of that. I think that's why one really enjoyed it. My favorite thing is that Dolly Parton was one of the producers on it.
Really?
I did not know that.
She funded it to happen.
God bless Dolly Parton.
It's popping up a lot more about it now because she's like a silent producer, but she brought quite a bit of cost so they could create this show based solely upon.
That woman just wants to save lives, doesn't she? She's a huge fan. I did not know that. You are just a fountain of knowledge. No wonder you won that quiz.
Useless trivia.
And I thought I had a lot.
No, because I know we like. Sorry.
No, go on, Paul.
No, it's the same because I know we've got like the Buffy episode coming up soon as well. We've got a lot of plans into it.
Yeah.
I think as well in terms of
question is like whether you were Spike or Angel. Who did you like put your loyalties in?
I'm not going to answer that.
Felicity, dear.
I can 100% say mine was Spike to the point I didn't watch the last episode of Buffy for years. Because I knew what would happen. I'd been told. For years I did not watch it. I would always stop at the episode before.
That's loyalty.
The Angel series.
Yeah.
Until it was mentioned to me that's like, oh yeah, he totally comes back in the Angel series. I'm like, I held off on this episode for years, not realizing that like he comes back. Like I can watch it now without having to cry over it.
Oh, bless you. It's amazing how much we gravitate towards these fictional characters, isn't it?
I never saw the appeal of Spike, to be honest. He just felt like a Billy Idol wannabe, which I know that was the impression that he wanted to give, but he kind of. I never got that much feelings to it. I never saw how Buffy and him worked in my thing. But again, that's something that we'll probably talk about in the Buffy episode as well. So what are you going to say there, Michael?
I'd be remiss if I didn't reference certain video game franchises as well over the last 20, 25 years that have sort of enamored themselves into the mainstream as well. You know, you look at Tomb Raider, although a bit dated now, but Tomb Raider, in the 90s was a huge franchise. For me personally, probably very niche now, but Metal Gear Solid.
It's a big one in our house.
Which, as a wee boy of 12 years old, playing that on the PlayStation 1 and going, my God, this is a movie. This has got brilliant voice acting, the way it was like shot, well, not shot, but, like the way it was directed visually. Those games, the first three games, well, all the Metal Gears really, I love them dearly. I love the story. I mean, the story, it's very hard to get into, but I love them dearly. But you've got Uncharted, which is just Tomb Raider and Indiana Jones with comedy in it, and it's just like
it's my favorite.
Yeah, and it works as a game. It works. It is fun to play. But for me, a video game franchise is something that drags you into that world and makes you fall in love with that world. And Uncharted did that. Mass Effect did that hugely to me, because that was so lovingly created, like Star Wars and Star Trek. It doesn't just go, hi, this is a game, pew pew space. This is like, this is a whole universe, and we have written everything about it. Here's the lore, here's the rate, and you're like, wow. And it just dumps you in it. It's like, here you go. See you later. And the other one I was just going to reference in terms of like sheer unbelievable ginormous franchise, Grand Theft Auto went from this top-down 2D game on the PlayStation 1 to the biggest video game ever. When a video game makes 250 billion a year on online alone, that is a big game. And that is the first and only time I have been to a midnight launch, because screw doing that again, because that was terrifying.
Really?
Being at Teesside Park at midnight with chavs in courses going, hey, you got a video game, yo, and you just like get to the car, drive away as quickly as possible, because hundreds and hundreds of people.
All because Goodwill wanted to bitch slap some whores.
I think with the game franchise thing, there's this lovely wave that's happening now in these remasters of really core classics. So Resident Evil did great, and each remaster has been brilliant. I'm so excited for the fourth one to be remastered. But see, now it's spurred that Silent Hill are finally going to do it. Everyone's waited so long for another Silent Hill game. We're now going to get a remaster and a brand new game.
There was a period. There was a period where obviously those games resonated with people my age, because it was the 90s and early 2000s, and they were like, yeah, these are brilliant stories and everyone loves them. But there's a generation that never experienced it. They never experienced those games when they came out. And, if they play the original games now, they're going to be like, graphics are shite, the gameplay is shite, blah, blah. So,
Yet they'll play Minecraft.
Yet they'll play Minecraft. But I love that, these people, like, yes, remasters can be argued, it's just a cheap rehash, but it's like, well, no, it's preserving these wonderful stories and characters and worlds for a new generation with new visuals and new gameplay. And Silent Hill, Resident Evil has proved you can have the original games highly polished and modernized. And a lot of people are like, Metal Gear Solid, do it for Metal Gear Solid, do it for these other games in the 90s that deserve a new voice, a new generation to appreciate them.
One that's coming soon is they're going to do it to a series called Dead Space.
Yes.
Which is
I feel like we spoke about this.
Space horror games ever.
Yes, we did. We spoke about it on the horror. I learned all about this because I did not know.
Now it's coming back. I mean, I remember being terrifying the first time it came out. I'm dreading a remaster. It's horrific.
I think we're getting a TV show about it as well. I think in the pipeline.
I'm really looking forward to this because I think there is going to be a slight sort of resurge in sci-fi horror. Like people are going to start taking interest in sort of films like the original Alien, Event Horizon, and things because they're going to be itching for it after playing this game. So I'm really sort of looking forward to. I'm hoping there is a slight resurgence in sci-fi horror.
Bioshock.
Yeah, it's
wow.
It's the greatest horror setting ever.
Definitely with a lot of the games as well. Like say, they all, I said they want that franchise money and stuff like that. They all want to, like say, be the next big thing. But that's why probably they are going back to the remakes as well, because there's nothing wrong with them games story wise that they made back then. It's just graphically they couldn't do what they could do now, so it can make things, like say, that much better. Like even if they remade, for example, like the original Halo movie, done Halo like back then when I think it was on the 360 when it originally came out.
No, it was Xbox, the original Xbox launch.
Was it? Yes. And there was it Turok as well, Turok the Dinosaur Slayer. That would again be an interesting one. I know they've tried to do movie wise quite a few times over the years, but you did say a saying that stood with his goodwill, and I know we've been talking for a while, but I wanted to get into this one as well because it's probably one of the more controversial ones now these days. And technically, let's be honest, this subject shouldn't be controversial, but it is due to like the issues that comes with it. Like you can't get any more world immersing and things that come with it than the Harry Potter films or books or games and everything that comes about. And again, not to say on whose side or what side that's on, but as a franchise, as a world, people get lost in this world. People like grew up with these worlds now, and it's such a wonderful place to be. And I know we've got like the Fantastic Beasts now, which again is a different take, showing you different sides, but it's so rich and it's so deep, and it's just a lovely place. And like I'll never not be a fan of Harry Potter, if that makes sense, because of the stuff that we got from it.
Same.
It
separates.
Because it like broke like crazy wild when I literally remember being in primary school when the first book came out. It was being read to us as our like sort of afternoon story before the end of school.
Oh wow.
So when the first film released, it was our school trip, go watch the first movie. I remember it so visceral of like actually it was in a really old cinema.
Bless you, I'm a lot older than you, so yeah.
Me too.
Michael, if you're from Teesside, so you might remember Redcast Cinema, where it's actually on like kind of the pier.
Yeah, it's just down the road from me. I live in Redcast.
Yeah, so we were in that cinema, and it is a proper old, like it's the velvet folding chairs, it's freezing.
Oh,
knock down now, though.
Did you knock it down, Goodwill?
Yes.
But we got taken there to go watch it, and it did for that entire generation. It was the new generation's Lord of the Rings. Because kids reading the books as the films were coming out. Tons of people like that sort of age range as well trying to get into the films because they're casting for children of all those ages just for a chance to be in there. Because I can understand why that franchise is so protected by the fans.
Yeah,
I think
this was their introduction into fantasy. This was their world.
I think it's more protective up here as well with a certain group because a majority of it was filmed in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And it I think it holds sentimental value for a lot of people because it's Thanet Castle, it's Doom Cathedral, it's Gromont, it's this, and it's like round here, it's like I'm only down the road from that, or I only live up there, and there's a lot of sentimental value for that for a lot of fans in the northeast of England for Harry Potter because it's
here as well, not being too far from York. Because when you go down a certain street in York, it does look like Diagon Alley. It tilts, and that is some of the inspiration for it. Edinburgh is the same. Edinburgh's fantastic.
I had no awakening in Edinburgh.
History you can find of how she wrote the books. Like there's the graveyard with the actual.
That's where I had my awakening.
But something like about that. I mean, obviously there's the controversy, but no. But these little things that it's like when you hold something so precious and you can actually go and physically see
Yes.
and immerse yourself in that, it's quite lovely in its way.
When a franchise makes you do what, let's be honest, it's a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
If you do that for a franchise, like if you look at so Harry Potter, you've got locations in the northeast of England. You've got Star Wars, who had certain locations. I mean, was it Tunisia?
Tunisia, but you can go to Pinewood Studios as well.
Pinewood, yeah.
Pinewood, yeah.
Star Trek has San Francisco, loads of sites in LA. These franchises, a lot of people. I mean, even for daft films like Home Alone. And the Fast and the Furious, there's the Toretto house. And it's like, people will make a pilgrimage just to stand outside of a house that was used as an establishing shot.
Yeah.
Charmed is the same thing. I mean, I only realized last week the Charmed house from the series is across the street from the Toretto house from Fast and the Furious. So people do a double pilgrimage because they're like, I'm here to see Charmed and the Fast and the Furious.
It's also been used in Buffy. Hasn't it? The Charmed House was used in Buffy.
Yeah. I think Michael, you were going to make a very good point earlier as well about separating the art from the artist and stuff like that.
When it comes to Harry Potter, obviously you know my opinion. I separate the art from the artist. I'm the same with Gene Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry had a lot of issues. I separate the art from the artist. I think things are wrong, but it shouldn't take away from the world of Harry Potter, and it's something that people love. And some fans won't know the controversy. They don't want to know. If they love that, that's fine. Don't say, how can you love this because of this?
And I love that, and I love that aspect. So that's something I'm always on board with as well. And that's one of the things that we do try and be quite strong about in the Nerdy Up North community on the group, because we don't want people to feel ostracized or out or left or punished,
discouraged
to love what they love. To be fuck, I get shit for like loving Twilight, which again is another franchise which we could talk about, but
we'll not. I actually last year I spent a lot of time with Harry Potter because I read the whole entire of the books, which was, as a dyslexic person, incredibly jarring to do. But my God, did I lose myself in that world. I actually cried on the last page, not just because I'd finished the books and that was it, my journey was over. It's because I actually finished the books. I am so bad at reading fictional books. I've got, as mentioned earlier, I'm reading Fire and Blood. That will probably take me about 2 years to get through. But I have just finished the Elvira autobiography in 2 weeks. I can do biographies like that. I cannot fiction or anything to do on the morbid side. I can, but fiction, I struggle very much. So I loved me little jaunt with War Harry.
Did Elvira have pictures in? That's all I'm asking.
It did.
Just for a friend.
It did. But yes. The centre pictures were very
research purposes.
Research purposes. You might have to lend that. You might not get it back, but yeah.
That logic of like damning people for their like fandoms or anything like that. It's such a shame when it happens, because I don't think people realise obviously how precious certain things can be for reasons that people might not necessarily understand why people attach themselves onto you. It can sometimes be you watch them at a certain time in life. And there is the thing of like what you class as like safe space shows, the shows you will always go back and rewatch because like it's a comfort point.
That's me all over.
I'm terrible for it. So many rewatches, but it's something I must admit I've only come across it in the last year or so. So I'm a very awkward person to meet in person. I don't really know what
You've really not. I don't know if that's because my awkward bounced off your awkward and we were okay, but you're fine.
But I'm starting to find the things I used to apologize for being so nerdy over, and the community of other people. Like when you meet someone who just clicks, and kind of you mentioned A show and like, yes, like I need to, and it's that loveliness. And it's keeping that going. It's like even if it's a show that you've not watched or you maybe don't necessarily understand, you don't have to go, "Oh, it's terrible." Like tell me why it's still enjoyable, because it obviously means something.
I love the
It's quite
conversation
lovely. I
aspect.
quite like
The conversation
finding
is
this
always
little
more.
space now.
And I think that's what happened when like we built what we have, and that's why we always try and keep to the fundamentals, like of what we do. We know it's expanded and grew to thing, and that's why we keep the podcast the way it is like it's expanded, it's changed different things. We've got other people in, but getting people's viewpoints. But the big point is not to shout someone down and say you're wrong for liking something or you're wrong for not liking something. It's about telling us why and having that conversation. It's much more interesting. But like say, I never thought like running the Nerdy Up North community would open my eyes to so many different aspects. Like it's changed my view on nerdism. So I thought I was a pretty nerdy person. But it turns out I'm not. I'm just a standard person.
Really...
He says in his shrine.
Yeah, I know. But this is why
Shut up, Chucky.
The disclaimer was something that I always saw on every YouTube video I see. There's always a disclaimer. These are our opinions. It's my opinions about it. And that's why I wanted the disclaimer in there. But really the message in it is the acceptance of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That was the reason why I wrote it the way I did, is to make sure.
Weirdo.
You really are, Goodwill. Is to make sure that we are all, everyone's accepted in fandom.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone. There is no exclusion whatsoever.
And I think
we are pretty.
I think the important thing as well is make it a safe place for people as well.
Yeah.
Because there's not many places especially on the internet, where you can go. Like most places have the best intentions, but it does turn a bit sour. And like I say, I've been banned from groups as well just by talking about Nerdy Up North. Fair enough, I've probably been self-promoting myself. But
would you consider Nerdy Up North a franchise?
No, because no.
We are a franchise.
Because it costs me money.
We go across platforms.
Yeah, but I don't want to think about that. No, I'm not. I'm not a franchise player yet. Taxman, please stay away from me.
It's a religion. It's fine.
It's a cult. Yeah. It's amazing to see things grow and seeing like people who's been involved like from the start, like yourself, Jessica. I know you're not very vocal in the group, but it is noticed that you're still around, and it's nice when people can get involved with like the project, shall we say. And as I said, Goodwill was this quiet, meek little boy, and now we can't get him to shut the fuck up. So yeah.
And
now I'm just bullied daily.
No, now he has his own little Twitch thing going, and he's making a name for himself, and he's going to leave us and do the Goodwill Project. Oh my God, that sounds brilliant.
Please don't say it like that. It sounds like some sort of experiment. No,
that sounds mint.
You are the experiment.
Project. I really am. I'm a failed test tube baby, guys. Come on.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Only you could twist it like that.
I was willed into existence when Nerdy Up North was created.
So
that's
finishing
canon.
On the project as well. Again, to talk about, like I said, in my eyes, what I think a lot of people do go to when they think about franchise or when they think about franchise player, we can't just have this talk and not talk about Star Wars. Because I think as a franchise as a whole, there's a lot of things that happened through the years and things, but this did change the game for a lot of things, like marketing, merchandise, spin-offs. This has more success than failures, and as a world, again, talking about Harry Potter as a world builder, the Star Wars worlds that was created and that we've got, a lot of the things that we have hold dear now, we would not have if it wasn't for Star Wars. And
true.
And I think Star Wars, like Star Trek, is now being run by ginormous fans of the franchise. Like if you look at Dave Filoni and John, I can never get his surname, Favreau, they are huge Star Wars fans,
and look at what they did.
And that love and that passion is shown within what they create. And for me, that's what makes a good franchise, where something was created and the love and the passion has brought people in to carry on that torch for another generation, to show what made them fall in love with it and to carry that spirit with them.
I'm watching Jon Favreau on the Mandalorian, you know, the making of that they do after that comes out afterwards, and they were talking about the scene, obviously the big one with Luke and R2, and he's pitching the idea in the writers' room, and he's like, oh, it would be brilliant if we could get R2 just to roll on in. They're like, yeah, we can do that. And he was like, excuse me? And he's like, yeah, you do know we can do that. We can get R2 for you. And he was like, oh. And he burst into tears. Because in his nerdy little child brain, never in a million years did he think, one, he would create Luke Skywalker again, and also be able to have R2-D2 in the droid. I don't know if you can't see it in the flesh, but in the, you know.
Jon Favreau is one of those people that has been responsible for giving us some of these franchises. Obviously, he was behind, obviously, the first Iron Man, setting us up into Marvel.
I thought you were going to start with Swingers there. Are you going to go that far back?
There's a weird connection there. I don't know whether ever picked it up. Obviously, the character he plays is basically Tony Stark.
Oh, Pete.
He's the guy with all the money that's going to go out there and stuff. And I love it.
Becomes a really failed MMA fighter.
Even back then, you can still see his thing that Iron Man was his character.
That's true. Yeah. Never really thought of that.
Well, I think these franchises are learning from that, and are learning that, we'll bring in the people who know the subject material and who are passionate about it. I mean, like I said, it doesn't even have to translate to behind the scenes. If you look at Rosario Dawson, she is a huge Star Wars fan. She fought tooth and nail to become Ahsoka Tano because she loved the character in the Clone Wars. Anson Mount from Strange New Worlds, a huge Star Trek fan who welled up the first time he got onto the bridge, and he was like, oh my God, I'm actually I'm here.
This is my fangirl moment.
Yeah, he told a story recently, because there was an interview, and he said, you know, the opening monologue in the classic Stark, you know, totally go where no man has gone before. He did that. He made the production team do that 100 times remotely, because he said, if I'm going to do this, I am going to do it right, because I have wanted to do this my whole life, and I'm not going to fuck it up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the commitment. That is the passion that you need if you're going to do these franchises.
Yeah. Certainly.
It was Peter Capaldi was the same for Doctor Who, whereas the adorable thing that as a kid he actually wrote, and he's like, if it could be anything he wants to be in Doctor Who. He had his own Doctor Who fan club. It took him that long to finally get
so cute.
And it's so adorable when you see this happen for genuine fans to get their chance, and you're going to get a much better portrayal because they do have so much love and passion for it. They're not going to let it get convoluted or made so they can make a bit of money. It's like, we're going to do this right.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what I love about it now, like, say, especially in like the Star Wars aspect, they're taking more risks and we're getting more interesting stories. Because years ago, I think one of the famous lines that one of the producers said was, no one's going to be interested in a Star Wars film without Luke Skywalker or without the Skywalkers. And we've had stories now, like Rogue One was a massive, unbelievable, one of my favorite Star Wars stories. We've had The Mandalorian, which has just blew everything out the way. Even the Book of Boba Fett was done well. Anakin.
Andor.
I cried at Andor. I really did. Several times actually, because I kept doing things in it where I was like, no, it's like Game of Thrones all over again. I'm like, this is a really good character. Oh.
But I think when big franchises, as I said, when we talk about like franchise fatigue, it's when they do things that's predictable and you're kind of sitting there watch it. It's when they change it up and do something that you're not expecting. Like we all hoped and prayed at the end of Mandalorian 2. We knew we were going to get a Jedi. We all were guessing which Jedi we were going to get to come and get Grogu. Not in a million years did I think they would have the balls to go with Luke. And when they did it so well. I know he got shit for like the more cash from the effects, but I cried like a baby. Like I absolutely cried my eyes out seeing Luke go full Vader and just destroy them robots and showing full powered Luke, not just like Luke that we've heard about, why people were scared of the Jedi as well. And that was the big thing for me. And then seeing all the aspects and the emotional that brought to, but telling them stories as well.
I've never cried so much in my life. I have never cried so much at a TV series. I think the only time it's ever surpassed it was Carl in The Walking Dead when he had to kill his mum. I was a wreck, but that absolutely, I still to this day can't watch clips of it without bawling my eyes out. I will never shit on the look of Luke on that end of the episode after watching the fucking work that went into how they did that. And not even for like, I remember when Rogue One came out and they were kicking off with Peter Cushing's character and how bad the CGI looked on that and how bad Leia looked. And I was like, hang on a minute.
No, it's brilliant.
There's some fucking hard work going into this to give you that character. Like, come on, I'm grateful they've had the balls to even fucking try it. I love it. I've got a huge respect for that aspect of work.
One question about the Mandalorian thing and this whole thing over. Who does everyone think is the Jedi that actually got him out? Like, who is that Jedi that did it?
Mace Windu.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. We're on the same page.
I'm on the thing, like, I might like absolutely lose it if in this third season it doesn't happen. I do not see a glow of a purple lightsaber.
Yeah. If I don't see that purple lightsaber whip out at some point, I would be bitterly upset. But yeah, I am 100% convinced Mace Windu.
So someone to see a lightsaber whip out.
Always. Way. I want to see some Jar Jar in there at some point.
Jar Jar's dead. It's fine. Jar Jar went quietly. The Gungans are gone. But
oh my God.
He's out of the box now. But yes, it's the only one that makes sense, and especially with Samuel Jackson being posting hints on Instagram and like on his social medias about Star Wars and stuff and wanting to do more. So I think that's going to be the logical thing. But it's going to be an interesting ride. It would be funny if you see Yoda getting them out. That would be quite interesting to see, but I don't think they'll say Yoda with Baby Yoda would be. I think Goodwill's not looking very happy about that one.
The slowest getaway ever.
I don't know. Like, see what depends if like Yoda's got the rocket up his arse like he did when he was fighting Count Dooku, and he was doing all the somersaults and shit like that. That just made no sense. But yeah.
No,
but anyway,
it didn't, but still.
Yoda playing the system. That's all he was doing.
Was he doing a Grandpa Joe from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the lazy fucker?
I love it.
Benefit fraud in a galaxy far, far away.
I love it. Fucking Yoda playing the system.
The Imperial DHSS.
But on that note, but yeah,
yes,
I think
shall we wrap this bad boy up?
Yes. So thank you both, Goodwill, for filming and being a worthy replacement. Like I say, always a pleasure, and thank you, Jessica, for making your podcast debut. Hopefully, like I say, you feel like the need to come back and join us in the future as well.
I think she just needs to sit in the corner and just spout out trivia every so often and just keep us on the right path. Like, your knowledge is
a countdown one where like they've just got the book and like every now and again pull it out.
Dictionary corner.
We'll now go to Jessica.
Nerd corner, yes.
Love it.
So I think we're returning on Tuesday. We've got a special episode on Tuesday with Jen coming on to tell us about her nerdy business, Metal MC, I think it's called. I believe. I can't believe it. And we're going to be. She's asked to talk about Friends as well. So I know when we get these special business nerdy
let them choose the topic.
Let them choose the topic and have fun. But then I think we're back to top fives next weekend with top 5 heroes, I believe. So Sam will have to work on this.
Yeah, sorry. I can see it now. Sorry. A screen, the cutoff was ridiculous. Yes, top 5 heroes. Wow.
Yeah. So mine's going to be all sweetness and light, and we'll probably go into some dark realms with Sam and Kev, I believe. But see who joins us on that night. But yes, have you got any Twitch streams planned, Goodwill? Now you're famous.
No, I normally Twitch on Tuesday, but as it's the podcast, I yield the spotlight.
Oh, sorry.
Wow.
you could Twitch on a Monday or on a Wednesday this week.
Wednesday, yeah, you did it last time. You switched to Wednesday.
I might have to move some stuff around. I'm such a busy fellow.
God, it's got appearances to make and people to make happy.
Yes, like work. Yay.
Well,
is this not your job?
I might Twitch on. I might do it on Wednesday. Part 4 of my Far Cry 5 playthrough.
As long as you're not playing Truck Simulator, that was shit.
Oh no, you're getting so much good feedback.
20 minutes of Truck Simulator 6 months ago, and he just will not let it lie, man.
It was boring.
I don't know why you let him get to you for. I really don't.
He doesn't get to me. You know, we play off each other. It's fine. He just comes onto my Twitch stream. He just goes, "Are you dead yet?" And I go, "No." And then I die immediately, and I just want to punch the laptop.
I am starting, fingers crossed, the recording for the Patreon series that I'm doing on Game of Thrones. Should be recording on Tuesday, but have yet to confirm a release date. So be on the lookout for that.
Cool. I'll be the one putting it together, so it'll be fine.
He most certainly will be.
So it'll look pretty at least. But yes. So thank you. Follow us. Like I say, we've talked about the Nerdy Up North community quite a bit on this episode, so please do join us. I think we're close to 7,000 members on there now, so it's gathering pace.
Go team.
Like I say, join the Patreon, give us some money. Like that's best way.
Lovely way of saying it. In my Game of Thrones advert that I'm recording, mine just says, help us keep the lights on. We're poor.
Don't make us pimp out
Goodwill.
Lives. Goodwill is out. We have to pimp out Goodwill to like little old ladies and stuff. But yes.
Why?
Because you're Dennis.
Use Jake.
No.
Oh no, you can't use Jake. He's heavenly.
Exactly. Appeal to the Jesus people. Please.
To be fair though, if we were a Sunny Cast, you would so be Charlie.
Yeah, you are Charlie. You get the Charlie jobs.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So thank you guys, and same bat time, same bat channel.
Stay nerdy, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.